Chapter 884. The most problematic ones were Long Fei and Kuei Do. These two were the descendants of sovereign martial emperors. Their talents were also extraordinarily high. Once Xiao Chun got tangled up with them, it would be hard for him to free himself. Difficult, very difficult. However, no matter how difficult it was, he had to break this corpse refining pool today. If he did not challenge the limits of life and death, his saber Dao would not be able to truly take form. Xiao Chun's thoughts raced. After a while, he thought of a countermeasure. He stretched out his hand, and a statue appeared in his palm. This statue was carved from a branch of the longevity tree. It looked very spiritual. The statue had black hair and white robes. Its features were like sabers, and its gaze was incredibly sharp. This was Xiao Chun himself. Xiao Chun flicked his finger, and the statue instantly took form. It burst forth with a strong aura and flew over the rows of coffins. Without saying anything, he punched. Countless strands of saber chi fluttered between heaven and earth like wings. With a single punch, hundreds of coffins were blasted to smithereens in an instant. Kuei Do looked around, and his eyes suddenly lit up. He exclaimed, "Xiao Chun." Without even thinking, Xiao Chun pushed off the ground with his feet, and turned into a sharp arrow, chasing after the white figure with great speed. Long Fei closed his folding fan and pondered something. He said softly, "This Xiao Chun is really bold. He dares to barge in everywhere. Elders, I'll have to trouble you to guard this place. After I capture Xiao Chun, I'll refine him into a peak sage-grade demonic corpse. Young master, rest assured. With us guarding this corpse refining pool, not even a mosquito will be able to enter." The four said as they performed cupped fist salutes as they looked at Long Fei. While these four were distracted for a thousandth of an instant, the black-cloaked Xiao Chun silently entered the corpse refining pool. The four old men withdrew their gazes from Long Fei and stared at the corpse refining pool. Black chi surged on the surface of the pool, and corpses floated up and down like usual. Then they continued to operate the formation under the pool, refining the corpses. The instant Xiao Chun entered the corpse refining pool, boundless death chi immediately poured into his body through his pores. The black aura of death was rampaging in his body, corroding his blood, bones, skin, and internal organs. Silently, it caused great harm to Xiao Chun. The amount of death chi was simply too great. Xiao Chun glanced at his palm. It had already withered beyond recognition, and was covered in wrinkles. It was lifeless and lifeless, just like an old man past his prime. Xiao Chun had completely underestimated the death chi in this place. He quickly circulated the law energy in his body, and strands of purple energy and electric light spread throughout his body, turning the black death chi into nothingness. The situation finally took a slight turn for the better. However, this did not completely resolve the danger. There was simply too much death chi in the pool, and it seemed endless. After Xiao Chun chopped off half of the death chi, another 2 times more death chi appeared. There was simply no way for him to remain here. Damn it! I can't stay here any longer. Using the power of laws on such a large scale will definitely attract the attention of the 4 old men above. Just as Xiao Chun was at his wit's end and feeling anxious, a suction suddenly came from the death throne in his sea of consciousness, sucking away all the death chi in his body, instantly draining it clean. He looked like a gluttonous little brat, and he seemed a little dissatisfied. Xiao Chun could move his body freely, rejuvenating it. Xiao Chun rejoiced in his heart. Unexpectedly, the death throne had such a wondrous use. He immediately relaxed. When Xiao Chun looked around in the pool, he saw corpses tumbling all around him. The scene looked very horrifying. The expressionless faces of the corpses sometimes looked like they were facing each other. Suddenly, a demonic hand stretched out from below, grabbing at Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun quickly dodged. The demonic hand grabbed a corpse beside him, and sank into the churning corpse refining pool. Above the corpse refining pool, the old man in the upper left corner revealed a suspicious expression. He said, "Strange, I was just about to grab a corpse and throw it into the corpse refining formation. In the end he managed to dodge. Haha. This is not too strange. He probably still has breath and is not dead yet. Or perhaps this is the instinctive reaction of the corpse. After soaking in the corpse refining pool for a while, it will be fine. The old man in the upper left corner said. Hee. The death chi in the corpse refining pool is already so dense that it has turned into liquid. Who would be so blind as to jump in? The old man in the upper right corner laughed sinisterly. The old man who spoke first felt that it made sense, so he stopped talking and focused on refining the corpse in the formation. Xiao Chun, who was in the pool, did not know that he had dodged a calamity. At this moment, he had already sunk to the bottom of the corpse refining pool. His feet touched the ground. Before him was an extremely complicated formation drawn with startling blood. 4 corpses sat cross-legged in the formation. Beams of scarlet light entered the bodies of the corpses. It looked like cultivators cultivating. The scene was extremely strange. There was a total of 99 nodes in the formation. A medial grade astral core was embedded in each node, and a superior grade astral core was embedded in the center of the formation. Together, they formed a round number of 100. The formation lines formed by blood were a startling red. They looked tender and alluring, filled with an evil aura. This formation should not be that easy to break. Xiao Chun did not dare to act rashly and alert the enemy. He stood at the side and observed for a long time. How should I break this formation? The condensed blood was deeply embedded in the ground, seeming to merge with it. Xiao Chun stomped on the ground. Due to the protection of the formation, the ground was as hard as iron, not budging at all. This formation clearly merged with the corpse refining pool. It was inseparable and unbreakable. If he relied on brute force, it might backfire. If he was not careful, he might even injure himself. I got it. With a thought, Xiao Chun thought of the death throne in his sea of consciousness. He smiled faintly and had an idea. Xiao Chun squatted down and stretched out his hand. When he touched the blood formation lines, a vast death energy immediately flowed into the formation. The entire formation line started to give off an intense red light, looking very alluring. What's going on? Suddenly, a large amount of death energy came from the corpse refining formation. This is too horrifying. We have to stop this death energy. Otherwise, it will exceed the limits of the formation. The 4 old men at the 4 corners of the corpse refining pool stood up at the same time. When they saw the surging pool water, they exclaimed in horror. Tremors spread out, and cracks appeared at the edge of the corpse refining pool. The expressions of the 4 old men changed as they quickly soared into the air with the demonic corpses beside them. In the next moment, a loud rumble resounded, and the entire corpse refining pool exploded. The entire black patterned island shook. Boundless death energy spread out in all directions. A deep pit appeared in the ground. The corpse refining pool turned into nothing, and the corpse refining formation ceased to exist. With Long Fei and Kuei-do's pursuit, the 2 finally caught up to Xiao Chun. Then they punched him, turning him into wood shavings that filled the air. The 2 were stunned. Then they said in unison, "We fell for it." The 2 quickly turned around and rushed back to the corpse refining pool. However, before they could get far, they heard an intense explosion. The entire corpse refining pool turned into nothingness. A black storm of death soared into the sky, forming a pillar of wind that reached the heavens. Black patterned island shook violently as a series of loud rumbles resounded endlessly. Long Fei folded the folding fan in his hand, and the strong wind gathered, forming a destructive storm that surged out. This showed how intense the shock in his heart was. The corpse refining pool shattered? How can that be? Even a Grandmaster-level martial sage would not be able to break the corpse refining formation easily. Furthermore, there are no more Grandmaster-level martial sages on this Dragonwood star. Kuei-do's expression turned sullen as he looked in the direction of the corpse refining pool. He said, "If it really was Xiao Chun, it is not impossible. Every time this fellow does something, it seems impossible. However, he manages to do it." Xiao Chun? I don't believe that this person has 3 heads and 6 arms. Long Fei's figure flashed, and a destructive aura burst out of his body as he rushed towards the corpse refining pool. Kuei-do frowned slightly. When he felt this aura, he entered deep thought. The will of destruction. Long Fei actually comprehended such a will. He really hid it very deeply. Bushin Palace, where the main camp of Dragonwood Star was, Huang Pufeng suddenly opened his eyes and soared into the air. He looked in the direction of black patterned island, at the black pillar of wind that reached the sky. His eyes filled with incredulity. The figures that flew out beside Huang Pufeng were also in disbelief. After a while, Huang Pufeng said, "The corpse refining pool is broken, and the foundation of the corpse race is destroyed. Mobilize the entire army and head for Black Patterned Island to deal the final blow. We will obey my lord's orders." Immediately, warships with the banner of Bushan Palace flew out from the main camp, carrying the human cultivators in a grandiose formation, looking very mighty. On the island that the Muddy Sky Gate occupied, the young master of the Muddy Sky Gate, Wuxia, was gathering a group of people, preparing to head to the main camp of Dragon with Star on Bushan Palace. When he saw this black pillar of wind, he was stunned. The corpse refining pool. How could someone break the corpse race's corpse refining pool? Without the corpse refining pool, how could the corpse race have any combat prowess? Wuxia exclaimed in disbelief. Wuxia's face sank as he said sullenly, "Go to Black Patterned Island. The location of the final battle has already changed. Whether we win or lose will depend on this final battle." At Azure Monarch Island, the underworld fire sovereign's descendant, Wei Hua, who was leading the corpse race army and doing his best to break through the third line of defense, turned his head back to look. When he saw the black pillar of wind, his expression changed drastically. For some reason, Wei Hua could not receive any information from Xiafeng at all. Although he held the upper hand, the battle was much more arduous than he had imagined. Then, when Wei Hua saw the peak master holding the black pillar of wind, he panicked. He shouted, "Retreat! Return to Black Patterned Island. We will fight another day." Immediately, the densely packed corpse race army retreated like the receding tide, rushing back to Black Patterned Island. Seeing the corpse race army, which held the upper hand, retreat, the many human cultivators immediately relaxed. However, they were somewhat confused, not knowing what was going on. Only Qin Wu sighed as he looked at the black pillar of wind that lingered for a long time. This fellow really did it. He really broke the corpse refining pool. At the side, by Wuxia, Shimen Bao, Feng Xingxing, Hua Dao, and Niu Deng all nodded slightly. When they heard this, they were somewhat stunned. However, the younger generation disciples of the Haotian sect were wild with joy and excitement. Chapter 885. Senior brother Xiaochen has already broken the corpse refining pool. The corpse race is finished. Let's give chase. Jin Lin laughed loudly and led the 20 inferior grade martial sages of the Haotian sect to charge towards Black Patterned Island. Qin Wu, who was already the highest commander of the third line of defense, smiled faintly and waved his hand for the entire army to attack. "Let's go." Xiao Chen's expression changed. At the bottom of Black Patterned Island's corpse refining pool, Xiao Chen was in a sorry state. He had not expected the formation to break in such a manner. The energy that erupted out was so startling. The shockwave struck Xiao Chen first. The heavenly sea cloak on his body blasted into tatters. From the looks of it, he did not know if it could be repaired. Xiao Chen's internal organs churned endlessly. He tasted something sweet in his throat and vomited a mouthful of black blood. He was significantly injured. Xiao Chen somersaulted twice in the air and removed his tattered cloak. When he saw the 4 corpse race old men pressing down on him, he complained bitterly to himself. Although the corpse refining pool was broken, he might not be able to escape. However, without any pressure, Xiao Chen would not be able to form his saber Dao. Today he would comprehend his Dao here. If he did not succeed, he would die trying. "Sir, you are really courageous. Can you tell me why the death chi in the corpse refining pool did not turn you into a corpse on the spot?" The 4 old men each led a superior grade sage grade demonic corpse as they surrounded Xiao Chen. They appeared calm and composed, not in a rush to attack Xiao Chen. The green-robed old man leading the group asked curiously. Starlight descended. This resplendent night sky was very beautiful. Xiao Chen smiled casually amid the starlight. His white robes fluttered as he stood upright with his hands behind his back. He said calmly, "This is the Zhao's secret. It is not convenient for me to tell others. Sorry." The green-robed old man smiled coldly and said, "Humph, you are rather calm. Later, I will have a way to make you say it." Attack! The three corpse race old men led the demonic corpses, and each sent out a corpse race martial technique. Death Chi surged and soared into the sky. Immediately, it covered the resplendent night sky, making it impossible to see anything beautiful. Xiao Chen's figure flashed, like a peerless treasured sword being unsheathed. A bright light shone from his body, instantly dispersing the black gas and restoring the clear night sky. Bang bang bang. Xiao Chen punched 6 times in a row. His figure flickered, and with every punch, a saber light flashed. Winds blew, howling endlessly. He forcefully received all the moves of the corpse race cultivators and demonic corpses. Space trembled endlessly. The 6 people's continuous attacks were actually unable to force Xiao Chen back. That unparalleled sharpness did not weaken in the slightest. The green-robed old man frowned and scolded. Don't hold anything back. Beat him ruthlessly. I don't believe that we cannot break his sharpness. When the 3 old men heard the scolding, they no longer held anything back. Together with the demonic corpses, they unleashed their death chi into the sky. When they attacked, it was like a black storm roaring in the sky. Xiao Chen immediately felt the pressure increase. He brought out his will of thunder and 90% comprehended saber intent to their limits. However, he still could not gain the initiative. He could only passively receive the ferocious attacks. Blood leaked out of Xiao Chen's mouth, but the smile on his face did not diminish. The sharpness in his heart sharpened under the pressure. Every move was like the tip of a saber, ruthlessly stabbing into the other party's body. Even though they were evenly matched, they still felt intense pain. It was like a sharp knife pierced through their flesh from the inside out. Myriad Heaven Divine Fist, Lightning Tribulation Saber Technique, Four Seasons Saber Technique, Rushing Thunder Saber Technique, Will Saber Intent, Kuan Prung Fist, Dragon Subduing Slash. Under this immense pressure, Xiao Chen brought out everything that he had learned in his life to his heart's content. The injuries on Xiao Chen's body worsened. However, his thoughts became increasingly clear. His eyes lit up, looking like gems in the dark night. At some point in time, Long Fei and Kuei-do had arrived. They stood quietly beside the green-robed old man, watching the battle between Xiao Chen and the 3 old men in a daze. The green-robed old man felt somewhat embarrassed. 3 superior-grade martial sages of the corpse race and 3 demonic corpses were dealing with an injured Xiao Chen. Clearly, they were suppressing Xiao Chen. However, Xiao Chen's sharpness did not weaken at all. Instead, the 3 corpse race cultivators became somewhat fearful, not daring to clash head-on with Xiao Chen. When they attacked, they clearly hesitated. Trash! The green-robed old man scolded to himself. His clothes fluttered as he prepared to make a move personally. Long Fei stretched out his hand and struck the green-robed old man's shoulder with his folding fan. He said, "Did you not see that all the starlight in the sky is landing on him? He is transforming from a cocoon into a butterfly. Why are you helping him?" The green-robed old man was slightly stunned. When he looked up, he saw the vast night sky filled with resplendent stars. For some reason, all the starlight landed on Xiao Chen. It was like Xiao Chen had a boundless charm that could attract all the light to him. You truly live up to your reputation as the descendant of the Qing Emperor. Unexpectedly, you dare to use this certain death situation to comprehend your Tao. I, Long Fei, want to see how you will transform, to be worthy of the starlight falling for you. The scholarly Long Fei's eyes flickered with a strong fighting spirit. He closed his folding fan and enunciated every word clearly. Long Fei's body seemed to give off a light as well, causing the starlight to fall in the dark night. This night was really beautiful, boundlessly resplendent with starlight falling. As the starlight filled the sky, the battle between Xiao Chen and the 3 superior-grade martial sages of the corpse race and 3 demonic corpses intensified. Xiao Chen's white robes were stained with blood and in tatters. Death chi spread from his wounds, leaving behind mottled shadows. He looked like he would collapse at any moment. However, his eyes were as bright as gemstones. Motes of starlight encased his body. He gave off a sharpness that was sharper than the sharpest treasure saber, thousands of times sharper than the sharpest treasure saber. Xiao Chen stretched out his hand and pointed, and a sharp saber wind blew. A corpse race old man who clashed with Xiao Chen felt the electric energy surging into his body. It immediately cut into his flesh, causing unbearable pain. Xiao Chen did not want to fight any longer, so he quickly retreated and waited for the others to come. Xiao Chen vomited a mouthful of blood, feeling very carefree. My body is like a saber. My will is like a saber. I am the saber and the saber is me. My sharpness never extinguished. My sharpness soared into the sky, breaking through the 3,000 great Tao and destroying the 800 unorthodox paths. My saber Tao, be it will or sharpness, in the end, it is still about sharpness and sharpness. What kind of saber could inspire fear from the bottom of one's heart, making one not dare to clash head-on with it? Only sharpness. Sharpness could cut through metal like mud and break metal like water. Naturally, it was unblockable, able to destroy everything. Xiao Chen's thoughts became increasingly clear. The starlight filling the sky nearly turned solid, turning into motes of fluorescent light as they descended. Xiao Chen's eyes became as resplendent as stars, as bright as a saber. No one dared to look directly at them. Xiao Chen pushed back a corpse-race old man with one finger. For a moment, the other two old men were intimidated by this sharpness. They did not dare to clash with Xiao Chen, only sending their demonic corpses over. As the three old men looked at Xiao Chen, who looked like he was bathed in blood, they all had an idea. This Xiao Chen had been injured earlier. He had relied on a large amount of death qi to blow up the corpse refining formation, sustaining significant injuries. Now that Xiao Chen had been attacked repeatedly, although he looked spirited, his injuries worsened. He was clearly on the verge of death. The three old men wanted to finish off Xiao Chen quickly. However, when they clashed, that sharp electric light pierced into their bodies, bringing intense pain that penetrated their hearts and reached the depths of their souls. How could they dare to clash head-on? After all, Xiao Chen was someone who was about to die. There was no need for them to risk their lives and suffer. Hence, the three old men started thinking. They only sent their demonic corpses to attack Xiao Chen. This was not painful at all. When the green-clad old man saw this scene, he could not help but feel even more enraged. He roared a few times, but the three old men pretended not to hear him, continuing to do as they pleased. The three old men did not seek to defeat Xiao Chen with brute force or to break his sharpness. They just wanted to slowly grind him to death. When Xiao Chen saw the situation, he laughed loudly. His laughter contained boundless joy. The direction he was heading in was indeed correct. He was just short of inspiration, and his saber Tao would completely take shape. At some point in time, several warships gathered in the sky above black-patterned island. When Wei Hua, who was the first to arrive, saw the strange scene of starlight descending, he was stunned for a long time. Starlight descending, heavenly flowers falling, auspicious signs filling the sky. Normally, such mysterious phenomena would only appear on major characters, or on people who could become major characters in the future. The night was as dark as ink. Stars dotted the sky. This was a very normal scene. However, if all the stars in the sky suddenly fell on one person for no reason, it would be a strange scene. Soon after were the pursuers led by Jin Lin. After that, Huang Pufeng from the Bushin Palace headquarters, and the people led by the Muddy Sky Gate's young master arrived one by one. All the factions of Dragonwood Star gathered here. Thousands of gazes focused on Xiao Chen, who looked like he was on the verge of collapse but was growing sharper and sharper. Starlight descending. Why is there starlight descending? What's going on? Xiao Chen is about to collapse. What's wrong with Lord Huang Pufeng? Why is Lord Huang Pufeng not stopping him? On the Dragon's Gate's warship, the juniors of the Haotian sect could not help but panic when they saw the bloodied Xiao Chen. When these juniors heard their seniors say that this was Xiao Chen's fortuitous encounter, and that he had to endure it by himself, they continued to watch anxiously. When they saw Xiao Chen's current appearance, they found it very difficult to relax. If Xiao Chen comprehended everything before his body could no longer endure, he would die. From then on, the name Xiao Chen would no longer exist in this world. The scholarly, pale-faced Long Fei fanned himself gently. He said expressionlessly, "Don't waste this great opportunity, trying to comprehend the Tao in the face of death. And if you end up comprehending yourself to death, do you really not understand the last point?" Kuei-do could tell that this was extraordinary. He said sullenly, "I think it is very mysterious." This fellow wants to take a path that no one has ever taken before, using his body as a saber and his thoughts as a saber. However, he cannot find a breakthrough point, a point that can truly ignite his cultivation. That was right. These two were talking about the difficulty that Xiaochen currently faced. He had already figured out that his saber Dao lay in sharpness. However, the ultimate goal of the saber Dao was very vague. He needed a point to encompass everything. To put it simply, it was to give his saber Dao a name. To put it in more complicated terms, this name contained all sorts of meanings. Once it was established, it could not be changed. It would forever be engraved in the depths of one's heart, merging with the entire heavenly Tao. Chapter 886. When the three corpse race martial sages saw Xiaochen's somewhat confused appearance, they could not help but rejoice. Originally, they thought that Xiaochen would definitely die. However, after waiting for a while, Xiaochen was still alive. They could not help but feel fear in their hearts. How could they not tell that Xiaochen was trying to comprehend the Tao? Once he succeeded, his strength would soar, reaching a qualitative improvement. When that happened, it would be time for them to die. Seeing such an opportunity, the three corpse race martial sages steeled their hearts and decided to fight to the death, not giving Xiaochen any more chances. Death Qi spread out and covered the sky again, blocking out the starlight. The green-robed old man smiled coldly and ignored Xiaochen's obstruction. He took advantage of the situation to charge over as well. Immediately, an overwhelming killing formation was laid out to kill Xiaochen. Long Fei withdrew his hand. For some reason, he allowed the green-robed old man to leave at the last moment. The surroundings fell silent. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air as they looked at the somewhat confused Xiaochen and that startling killing formation. If he still could not comprehend it at this moment, he would not have another chance. As the murderous intent surged, Xiaochen's mind seemed to be stimulated. In a flash of inspiration, he suddenly uttered the word flawless. That was right, it was flawless. Xiaochen's saber Dao was called flawless. No one in the world dared to say that their martial technique or cultivation technique was perfect and flawless. The heavenly Dao was benevolent. Everything in the world would leave a trace of hope. The heavenly Dao was emotionless. It would not tolerate something truly perfect and flawless remaining in the world. The moon waxed and waned. People would experience joy, anger, sorrow, and joy. Even the smoothest thing would have flaws when magnified thousands of times. However, today Xiaochen thought of the word flawless. Xiaochen's saber Dao was unprecedented. There were no words that could describe it. If it was not flawless, what was it? A spiritual light flashed, and starlight filled the sky, illuminating the night sky and gathering on Xiaochen's body. This was a scene that only major characters could display. All of Xiaochen's injuries instantly healed. When Xiaochen uttered the word flawless, he suddenly broke through the bottleneck of inferior grade martial sage and advanced to medial grade martial sage. A strong wind blew, and the black death Qi did not scatter at all. Before the eyes of all the cultivators on Dragonwood Star, Xiaochen obtained new life. Nirvana City Lord. A strong wind blew and blew away the black death Qi, not scattering it at all. Xiaochen's lips curled up slightly. Then he placed 2 fingers on his forehead and said softly, "If the bright moon is flawless, can starlight still shine?" Right after he spoke, a bright moon slowly rose up behind him. It was a perfect and flawless moon. Its brilliance was so resplendent that it caused the stars to retreat. Before the 4 corpse race martial sages rushing over could be shocked, they saw Xiaochen extend his hand and point. In an instant, all the light from the bright moon in the sky gathered at Xiaochen's fingertip. An unparalleled cold saber light flashed. The 4 corpse race martial sages and the 4 sage-grade demonic corpses could not resist at all as they were chopped in half. If the bright moon is flawless, the starlight will fade away. How could these 4 beams of light compete with the bright moon? The surroundings were silent. Not a single sound could be heard. Earlier, when they saw that Xiaochen was about to be killed by that trap, they felt it was a pity and could not bear to make a sound. Now they were shocked speechless by Xiaochen's shocking strength after his nirvanic rebirth and his successful comprehension of the Tao. Unable to bear to, not daring to. These changes happened in an instant. Flawless bright moon, starlight fades away. When Xiaochen formally comprehended the flawless saber Dao, he thought of the moon bright like fire that shocked him many years ago. After some slight changes, he discovered that this martial technique was very compatible with his flawless saber Dao. This was the first martial technique he created based on his flawless saber Dao. It seemed like he was the only one in the world who knew it. When Xiaochen looked at the 8 new bright purple skulls on the military merit medallion at his waist, he felt very satisfied with the might of this move. The moonlight scattered, and the starlight slowly reappeared. That boundlessly resplendent night sky reappeared above everyone's heads. The starlight descends, the cocoon turns into a butterfly, nirvanic rebirth. Good. The instant you comprehended it, you instantly killed 4 superior grade martial sages. Xiaochen, you really did not disappoint me. Long Fei stepped forward and closed his folding fan. As he walked in the air, he met Xiaochen's gaze without any fear. Xiaochen stood upright with his hands behind his back. As he looked at the elegant, scholarly Long Fei, he asked, "Do you regret giving me the chance earlier?" Long Fei moved his finger and opened his folding fan. Then he smiled calmly and said, "You were the one who fought for the opportunity. It has nothing to do with me. However, this starlight might not fall for you alone." Right after Xiaochen spoke, the stars above him flickered. Starlight fell like snow drifting down. Indistinctly, the sound of a zither and a flute rang out. When Xiaochen got closer, he discovered that the white folding fan in Long Fei's hand was actually a bone fan. This white bone should be the skeleton of a certain Emperor Wu. After being polished layer by layer, it became as smooth as white jade. This was a truly strong bone weapon. As for the other party's falling starlight, it was different from Xiaochen's. The gentle, snow-like starlight should be a mysterious phenomenon caused by some kind of cultivation technique, and not a natural phenomenon caused by breaking through a bottleneck. Falling snow drifting song, zither and flute in concert. This is a mysterious phenomenon caused by the 9 heavens astral art's 8th layer. Unexpectedly, this Long Fei does not cultivate the white bone sovereign's cultivation technique, the white bone dermic art. Unexpectedly, he cultivates the famous ancient 9 heavens astral art. That's impossible. Based on his appearance, it is clear that he cultivates the white bone dermic art. Could it be that he cultivates 2 cultivation techniques at the same time? These are both peak heaven-ranked cultivation techniques. How can he deal with them? When the cultivators in the air saw the mysterious phenomenon of the zither and flute playing together, they were all astonished. Xiaochen had not expected such a thing to happen. It looked like this Long Fei could not be underestimated. From the fact that Long Fei could treat his breakthrough so calmly, it was clear. Xiaochen, now that you have broken the corpse refining pool, you have made a great contribution to the Bushin Palace. You will not be able to run away with 100,000 military merits. Do you dare to bet with me and make another contribution? The starlight drifted down like snowflakes, and the zither and flute were pleasing to the ears. Amid the atmosphere filled with hints, Xiaochen felt an aura of destruction, a power that could draw out the starlight on its own initiative. How mighty would it be when used to injure the enemy? Others might not feel much about the zither and flute's music. However, with Xiaochen's spiritual sense, he clearly felt that this sound had already spread for 500 kilometers, not scattering. If he gathered it into a line, it could pierce through the mountains with just a raise of his hand. Long Fei is not simple. However, Xiaochen did not fear the other party earlier. Now that he comprehended the flawless saber Dao, he was even less afraid. He asked calmly, "What do you want to bet?" Long Fei smiled faintly and said, "Now that the corpse refining pool is broken, my corpse race is out of options for this dragonwood star. Even if we do not want to retreat, we will have to. My corpse race still occupies 2 of your Bushin Palace's resource stars. That is what I want to bet with you. Let's fight. If I lose, I will return 1 resource star. If you lose, you will take the Bushin Palace and leave Dragonwood Star. Then you will lose another resource star." What bold words! What a great bet! To think that Long Fei would use a resource star as a wager. This Long Fei was extraordinarily confident. Whispers rang out in the surroundings, all of them finding this incredulous. The strength that Xiaochen displayed earlier was already terrifyingly strong. However, based on Long Fei's appearance, he was clearly very confident. Everyone could not help feeling suspicious. Where exactly did this confidence come from? Xiaochen, I will agree to this bet on your behalf. If you win, I will give you 500,000 military merits for 1 resource star. Before Xiaochen could say anything, Dragonwood Star's Huang Pufeng spoke first, agreeing to this bet on Xiaochen's behalf. Although the risk was high, he could take back a resource star in 1 battle. This was an opportunity that could not be missed. Given Xiaochen's status as a sovereign martial emperor, he would not casually make promises. Haha, you agree but I don't. The underworld fire sovereign's descendant, Wei Hua, walked over in extreme dissatisfaction. He leaped off the corpse dragon warship and landed beside Long Fei. Then he said, Brother Long Fei, you think too highly of this Xiaochen. Furthermore, it is not as if we do not have the strength to fight for this Dragonwood Star. Don't you think so, young Master Muddy Sky Qi Wuxia? The various factions in the sky were roughly divided into 3 groups. Although the strength of the Muddy Sky Gate was much weaker than the other 2 factions, joining either side could change the balance. With Wei Hua's words, he clearly wanted to rope in the Muddy Sky Gate's faction to increase his own bargaining chips. The Muddy Sky Gate's young master, Qi Wuxia, stood at the bow of the warship. He did not answer Wei Hua's question directly. Instead, he smiled and said, 2 years ago, the name Xiaochen resounded like thunder in the ears. Everyone in the primal chaos domain knew about him. Unexpectedly, we met in such a manner today. Brother Wei Hua, I am indebted to you for thinking so highly of me. Earlier, Qi Wuxia was indeed dissatisfied and wanted to fight for it. However, now, Qi Wuxia changed the topic. Then he said in a powerful voice, what I want to see is whether the White-Bone Sovereign's descendant, who can execute the mysterious phenomenon of falling snow drifting song and the zither and flute in concert, or the reborn descendant of the Qing Emperor, is stronger. The people of the primal chaos domain were not just evil loose cultivators. There were also some people who were both righteous and evil. They did not follow the rules when they did things, only acting according to their whims. For example, this Qi Wuxia had betrayed Wei Hua in front of so many people, putting the other party in an extremely awkward position. Wei Hua could not help cursing in his heart, cursing Qi Wuxia several times. To think that Qi Wuxia dared to undermine him in front of so many people. How was Wei Hua to continue with this? Steeling himself, Wei Hua snorted coldly and said, Qi Wuxia, this old man finally recognizes you. In the future, we will be irreconcilable enemies. Seeing that Qi Wuxia did not care, Wei Hua looked at Xiaochen and said, Xiaochen, Long Fei is not the only one who dares to bet with you. I, Wei Hua, dare to bet with you as well. Back then, the grudge between you and me in the Sage Mark Monument spread to the entire world. Today is a good time to settle old and new grudges. Do you dare to fight me head-on? I will bet a resource star with you as well. However, if I win, you will have to break off one of your arms. Unexpectedly, Qi Wuxia's words roused Wei Hua's hot-bloodedness. Although this underworld fire sovereign ranked last among the corpse race sovereign martial emperors, and even got injured by the Iron Hand sovereign back then, he was still a sovereign martial emperor. Chapter 887. However, Wei Hua was a descendant of a sovereign martial emperor, after all. His strength would definitely not be weak. If Xiaochen won both bets on 1 resource star, he could reclaim both resource stars without a drop of blood. That would be a total of 1 million military merits. Xiaochen thought for a while. Then, he raised his eyebrows slightly and said, Wei Hua, I don't know if you really look down on me or pretending to look down on me. In any case, you are really nothing in my eyes. You will definitely lose this bet. Since you mentioned the grudges in the Sage Mark Monument, then, that's fine as well. In that case, let's settle this together. Kuei-do, come out as well. If the 2 of you can defeat me together, I will break off one of my arms. Even if I lose, you should hand over a resource star willingly. The moment Xiaochen said that, the entire place erupted. Unexpectedly, Xiaochen wanted to challenge the descendants of 2 sovereign martial emperors at the same time. In this great age, there was no lack of young demonic geniuses capable of shocking things. However, The number of young demonic geniuses who dared to say such a thing could be counted on one's hand. In the past, Xiaochen could not be considered much. At most, he could trick the corpse race and the ghost race. Then he used words to kick Diwuk's leg. However, if he could do what he said today, there would definitely be a place for him, Xiaochen. In this age of geniuses, there would definitely be a place for him, Xiaochen, to lead the times. However, no matter how Xiaochen thought about it, this did not seem possible. It was more likely that he would suffer a crushing defeat, becoming the laughingstock of the world, a negative example of arrogance and conceit. Xiaochen, you are really bold. Since you want to die that much, I'll grant you your wish. Kueido's main purpose in coming to Dragonwood Star was to deal with Xiaochen. Originally, when he saw Xiaochen undergo a nirvanic rebirth, he thought that it would be hard to find another opportunity. Unexpectedly, Xiaochen jumped out on his own. Xiaochen wanted to fight 1 against 2 to settle the grudges in the Sage Mark Monument. This suited him. Although Wei Hua did not like Kueido, he still felt that if the two worked together, their chances of victory would be much higher. Long Fei waved his folding fan gently, and his figure slowly floated away. The starlight slowly dissipated, and in the blink of an eye, he retreated 50 kilometers. After Kueido formally accepted the challenge, the various cultivators in the sky all became cautious. They all flew higher once again. These 3 were not ordinary young demonic geniuses. They were strong, far stronger than regular superior grade martial sages. They also had great backgrounds. If they had not changed the location of this battle, they would not have been able to survive. Without a doubt, the entire black-patterned island would be shattered by the shock waves. It was best to flee further away first. Xiaochen, Kueido, and Wei Hua stood in a triangle in midair, not saying a word. Under the curtain of night, the entire black-patterned island was quiet. None of the 3 made the first move. They did not even release their auras. The Neptune headscarf on Xiaochen's forehead emitted a chilly aura, which flowed around his body and calmed his heart. Kueido and Wei Hua looked calm and collected on the surface. However, their hearts were in turmoil. Their minds were filled with all sorts of countermeasures, as well as some conflicting thoughts. The 2 wanted to work together and make a move. However, they could not find any openings in Xiaochen's defense, so they did not dare to rush forward. They could only wait anxiously. Xiaochen grasped the thoughts of the 2. He smiled gently and said, I gave you a chance, but you did not make a move. In that case, you can forget about getting another chance. Xiaochen's figure flashed, and he left behind an afterimage where he stood. Then he turned into a bright and flawless saber light. The crisp sound of a treasured saber being unsheathed was exceptionally clear in the silent night. This was the prelude to this duel. That saber light came from Xiaochen's afterimage. Xiaochen's true body was already faster than most people's eyes could see. No one could catch him. Kueido felt a slight chill on his head. Before that bright saber light formed, he already sensed that Xiaochen was charging at him. In the time it took for a spark to fly, Kueido's body moved as well. The purest vital qi in his body surged out like a gushing river. When Kueido moved, his vital qi caused the surrounding air to tremble thousands of times. The tremors overlapped, sounding like a clap of thunder. However, although this sound was startlingly loud, it could not drown out the melodious saber hum. A bright saber light appeared before Kueido's eyes. He held his breath and focused, staring at the saber light. As long as Xiaochen flew out, he would use half a dragon force to blast him apart. 2,500 tons of force could even crush a body infused with 1,000 mountains frost iron. What more a body of flesh and blood? Roar! However, to Kueido's surprise, what leaped out of that bright saber light was not Xiaochen but a dragon, a soaring blue dragon. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws. Its breath formed clouds, and azure scales covered its body. If this was not the legendary blue dragon, what was it? How can this be? Kueido cursed in his heart. He could not believe the scene before him. After all, he had fought in the starry heaven Silver Lake for 2 years. At this critical moment, Kueido did not lose his composure. He shouted a war cry and punched. In the end, Kueido still managed to bring out half a dragon force. One could even vaguely see the image of an ancient heaven dragon appear behind him when he punched. Bang! Kueido's punch landed on the other party's dragon claw. Space trembled, and an explosion instantly deafened everyone within 500 kilometers. The buildings on black-patterned island under Kueido's feet crumbled into rubble. Kueido's body flew back like a cannonball. He clearly felt that the force of this punch surpassed that of the blue dragon. However, he was the one who got knocked back. Long Fei, who was 50 kilometers away, gently tapped his folding fan and whispered, "Incredible." He really materialized the momentum of soaring dragon to the flawless level. This momentum is the momentum of soaring. If Kueido wants to resist it, he either has to materialize a corresponding momentum or use force to break through it. Unfortunately, you want to break my soaring dragon with just half a dragon force? Kueido, you are too naive. Xiao Chen's cold voice rang out. Kueido looked at his bloodied right hand, and then at the front. He felt incredulous. The blue dragon before his eyes actually flashed and turned into Xiao Chen's figure. Rumble. Just as Xiao Chen prepared to use half a dragon force and his flawless saber Dao to take down Kueido in one move, he suddenly heard the sound of surging waves. Xiao Chen turned his head and saw an overwhelming black wave surging at him. Wei Hua stood at the top of the wave and looked down at Xiao Chen. He said coldly, "Today, I'll show you what it means by there is always someone better out there." The underworld river's 9 waves. 9 similar overwhelming waves appeared around Xiao Chen. Wei Hua stood at the top of each wave. Together, they looked like a cage slowly shrinking. Xiao Chen, these waves are genuine underworld river water. They are thousands of times denser than the death qi in the corpse refining pool. As long as they surround you, no matter how powerful you are, you will not have a chance to execute them. You will turn into a dried corpse. The 9 Wei Huas opened their mouths at the same time, and cold laughter spread out in all directions. Do you think that I would take the initiative to challenge you, who underwent a nirvanic rebirth, if I did not have a trump card? You are too naive. If you had not been delayed by Kueido, you might have been able to escape at the start. Now, I will send out my 9 waves, forming the power of the prison-locking divine dragon. Even if you are a true dragon, you will have to lie down obediently today. What a great Wei Hua! To think that he used his trump card right off the bat. He did not have any intention of testing Xiao Chen at all. Everyone felt shocked in their hearts. However, it was fortunate that Wei Hua did not test Xiao Chen. Otherwise, if he really tried, he might end up like Kueido, defeated in one move. Xiao Chen's lips curled up slightly, and his eyes filled with disdain. He said, "I thought that you really had some trump card that gave you so much confidence, daring to bet a resource star with me. It turns out that what you took out was just a half-finished martial technique filled with flaws. I'll show you how to break it with just a wave of my hand." The Kuanpeng spread its wings, covering the sky with its gaze. In ancient times, there was a divine bird known as the Kuanpeng. When it spread its wings and soared, it could travel 4,000 kilometers in one breath. When it stretched its arms, it could cover the entire sky. Now, Xiao Chen used his flawless saber Dao to execute the Kuanpeng fist. Instantly, a perfect momentum formed and soared into the sky, clashing wildly with Wei Hua's power of the prison-locking divine dragon. The situation of a stalemate did not happen. As Xiao Chen shouted, he shattered the black wave in front of him with a punch. With the 9 waves gone, the power of the prison-locking divine dragon naturally broke without Xiao Chen attacking. Bang! 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 The remaining 8 waves scattered as well. Wei Hua stabilized his tottering body in the air. Blood leaked out of a corner of his lips as he said, "How can it be like this?" The underworld river 9 waves is a martial technique that can protect one's life even before a grandmaster-level martial sage. Under the night sky, Xiao Chen said calmly, "No matter how powerful a killing move is, if it is filled with flaws, how can it bring out its full might? I already said it before. I really do not care about the current you." Xiao Chen swept his gaze over the two, who had lost all fighting spirit, and appeared disappointed. Xiao Chen felt somewhat disappointed in his heart. Before he comprehended the flawless saber Dao, he still feared these two. However, they were now far from being a match for him. The victor of this battle was already decided. Wei Hua Long Fei, is there still a need to continue fighting? Xiao Chen asked calmly as he stood upright with his hands behind his back and looked at the two. In just one exchange, Xiao Chun had beaten the two to the point that they lost all confidence. Their earlier bold words now looked like a joke. You win. Wei Hua spat out through clenched teeth. Then he said sullenly, 3 days later, I will fulfill my promise and lead the people of my underworld fire hall away from the resource star that we occupied. Kuei Do endured the intense pain from his right hand and said, Xiao Chun, the grudge between us will not end like this. When I attain a rank 4 sage body, I will definitely challenge you. No one had expected this startling battle, which everyone had expected, to end in just one exchange. It was hard to imagine how strong Xiao Chun was. In the air, Bai Wuxia, Feng Xingxing and the others could not accept such a result. Chapter 888. This was too easy. In just one exchange, Xiao Chun obtained a resource star. With 500,000 military merits, he left everyone else in the dust. If Xiao Chun won another match, wouldn't he gain 1 million military merits? When everyone thought of this, their breathing quickened. 1 million military merits. That was enough to be conferred king. The Bushan Palace would carve out a large territory in the Tianwu domain for Xiao Chun to be conferred king. In the history of the Bushan Palace, there had never been someone who was conferred king at such a young age. Such an opportunity lay before Xiao Chun. Bai Wuxia appeared extremely depressed. Ever since Xiao Chun saved him at Heavenly Wind Island, he had been in a bad mood. In the battles that followed, he even appeared somewhat crazy. Now that Bai Wuxia saw Xiao Chun's strength after his nirvanic rebirth, he found the blow hard to accept. Everyone was astonished. None of the cultivators of the 3 factions fighting in the sky had expected that Xiao Chun would be as he said when he fought Wei Hua and Kuei Do. He did not care about them at all. Only Long Fei was an exception. The snowy starlight and the zither and flute played together. The scholarly, pale-faced white-boned sovereign's descendant, Long Fei, slowly floated over. It seemed like Long Fei crossed the distance of 50 kilometers in the blink of an eye. Then he arrived 1 kilometer away from Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun looked up and felt cautious. This was not his first time meeting Wei Hua. Xiao Chun knew Wei Hua's strength very well. However, he had only heard of Long Fei's name, and had never seen him in person. Xiao Chun could not underestimate him. This Long congratulates Brother Xiao in advance. You managed to take down a resource star without spilling any blood. You are fully deserving of your 500,000 military merits. Xiao Chun gently fanned himself with the folding fan in his hand. The snowflake-like starlight danced around him, looking very beautiful under the night sky. However, who knew how many people could feel that destructive aura from it? Xiao Chun's heart was as clear as a mirror. The cool breeze did not move him, and his white robes did not flutter. Xiao Chun asked indifferently, Young Master Long, do you still want to bet? Naturally, I want to bet. I cannot let the world laugh at my corpse race for being useless, relying only on demonic corpses. Long Fei smiled faintly. Then his tone suddenly changed, turning cold. He folded his folding fan and pointed it forward. Brother Xiao, be careful. I'm making my move. The falling snow drifting song, the zither and the flute played together. When Xiao Chun pointed his folding fan, the music of the zither and flute spread for 500 kilometers without scattering. Suddenly, it turned into a finger sound wave. The music of the zither and flute immediately became 1,000 times louder in the night, pressing toward Xiao Chun. Indeed, he had guessed correctly. The sounds of the zither and the flute could really be combined together. The light of the stars in the sky would probably not be a problem. The sound wave came without warning. Moreover, it wasn't an attack of ordinary quintessential essence or the power of laws. Ordinary defenses were easily penetrated by the sound wave. Xiao Chun prepared already. He had a Chun and Chun and he circulated Xiao Chun. Strands of formless energy gathered above Xiao Chun's head, forming a roaring dragon head. Dragon might spread out, and the body behind it was hidden in the clouds. Xiao Chun opened his mouth and roared. The ferocious dragon had opened its mouth and roared as well. Immediately, the dragon voice formed a spiraling storm surging out. When it collided with the sound of the zither and the flute, only specks of light could be seen, and the sound wave was instantly dispersed. The loud and ear-piercing sound disappeared, replaced by the pleasant sound of the zither and the flute. Together with the wind, they created a beautiful melody. Each dot of light was a musical note. Dong, dong. After a round of probing, the two of them pushed off the air at the same time and shot towards each other. Everywhere they passed, they kicked up a strong wind, knocking down the specks of light floating in the air, forming a melody that sounded like a tempest. This stirred the heart and made one's blood surge. This was the most impassioned music. The instant the two brushed past each other, their eyes met. Their hands did not stop moving. In a breath of time, they had exchanged 100 moves. Xiaochen switched between fists, palms, and claws. However, the sharpness remained the same, always as sharp and unblockable as a saber. The saber winds they created flew out, dancing up and down. The white-faced scholar Long Fei used the white folding fan in his hand. Starlight bloomed in the air like flowers. When the petals exploded, a destructive energy surged out and clashed intensely with the sharp saber winds. After one breath of time, the two brushed past each other. Their speed was startling. Several people could not even react in time. They were shocked to discover that Xiaochen and Long Fei had switched positions. Wuxia stood at the bow of the warship. The scene of the two brushing past each other and exchanging moves appeared in his mind. He clicked his tongue and sighed. These two fellows are indeed demonic geniuses. A regular superior grade martial sage would have died at least 100 times over in that instant. However, Bai Wuxia and the other outstanding talents of the human race opened their eyes wide, not wanting to miss out on a single scene. At this moment, their emotions were very complicated. From the perspective of the human race, they naturally hoped for Xiaochen to win. However, from the perspective of those of the same generation, there were already many peak demonic geniuses. Now that there was another one, it would be even harder for them to survive in the future. Only Jinlin's group on the Dragon's Gate's warship showed excited and joyful expressions. They found it somewhat strenuous to watch and could not easily capture the scene of Xiaochen and Long Fei's exchange. However, they did not have any intention of shifting their gazes. Amid the stormy tune of ambush from 10 sides, Xiaochen executed his flawless saber Dao, executing everything he had learned and comprehended, exchanging another 1,000 moves with the white-faced scholar, Long Fei. The flowers contained starlight that could destroy everything. The saber winds were formless but sharp enough to cut through frost iron. After 1,000 moves, black-patterned island below had already crumbled, disappearing without a trace in the surging seawater. However, the two were still evenly matched. Neither side showed any signs of being at a disadvantage. Long Fei narrowed his eyes. He did not want to drag this out any longer. He quickly closed his folding fan and pointed it at the sky. The two famed ominous stars in the distant starry heavens, the Ketu and Rahu, suddenly released a dazzling red light. Ketu Rahu chop. Immediately, two blood swords descended from the sky. As Long Fei pointed, they ruthlessly chopped at Xiaochen. Ketu Rahu chop. Long Fei actually learned this move. Did I see wrong? Ketu and Rahu, these two stars, were rumored to be demonic stars and ominous stars during the ancient era. They were inauspicious omens. During the ancient era, a powerhouse invented this Ketu Rahu chop. If the two blood swords do not see blood, they will never disappear. Several of the older cultivators in the crowd could make out the name of this move. They were all startled. The Ketu Rahu chop was a famous evil move from the ancient era. If it did not see blood, it would not return. However, once it saw blood, even if it was just a small wound, it would suck the cultivator it struck dry. After executing this move, Long Fei's fair face flushed somewhat. Clearly, something was wrong with his complexion. Cracks appeared in the bone fan in Long Fei's hand before it shattered and turned to dust. When Long Fei saw this, his heart ached. Every time he executed this Ketu Rahu chop, not only did it exhaust his blood chi, but it also required the sacrifice of a king-grade secret treasure. The price was extremely high. However, once he executed it, the number of people who could survive within the same cultivation realm could be counted on one hand. When Xiaochen saw the two blood swords, he felt an extreme sense of danger. Before he could think, the blood swords had already arrived before him. Xiaochen's figure flashed, brushing past them. However, before Xiaoqun could catch his breath, the blood swords turned around and charged at Xiaoqun again. Xiaoqun executed the Thunder Dragon steps to its limits. Riding on 2 lightning dragons, Xiaoqun danced in the air, moving so fast that one could not even see his shadow. In one breath, Xiaoqun changed directions more than 100 times. However, he still could not dodge the 2 blood swords. When Wei Hua saw this scene, he could not help but laugh. He said softly, "What a great Long Fei. To think that he hid so deeply that even I did not know." The Keita Rahu chop is silent. Unexpectedly, it is 100 times more ruthless than me. The various cultivators could not help but frown. The Keita Rahu chop was infamous. To think that someone actually managed to practice this evil move. Now Xiaoqun was in big trouble. Kasie. Xiaoqun dropped a few secret treasures and the life bestowal spells clones, trying to block the blood swords. However, the blood swords chopped through the secret treasures and clones, showing no signs of stopping. Do not turn back until blood is shed. Die when blood is shed. Long Fei rubbed his temples, and his flushed face recovered somewhat. As he looked at Xiaoqun, who was helpless despite all his schemes, a faint smile appeared on his face. Metamorphosis from a cocoon to a butterfly, undergoing a nirvanic rebirth. This was the best opportunity to defeat Xiaoqun. Otherwise, when Xiaoqun slowly perfected his flawless Tao, his chances of defeating Xiaoqun in the future would diminish. Unfortunately, Xiaoqun ran into Long Fei. If not for Long Fei, he might have become an unprecedented sovereign martial emperor, who could rival the Qing emperor. Unfortunately, there were no ifs in this world. It was time to end this. Xiaoqun raised his head and looked at the 2 ominous stars in the starry heavens. Then, he turned his head back to avoid the blood swords rushing over. Now he understood something. Heaven and earth were heartless, but they could not bear to do so. Nothing was absolute. There was always a chance of survival. The Keita Rahu chop would not turn back until blood was shed. Die when blood was shed. This was a result that could not be avoided. Everything had its own reason for existence. There had to be a reason why the 2 blood swords could chase after him. If Xiaoqun guessed right, the reason was outside the starry heavens, on the Keita Rahu star. Under the starlight, there was nowhere to hide. As long as the light of the Keita Rahu star continued shining, he would never be able to dodge. After thinking this, Xiaoqun came up with a countermeasure. If night was no longer, the starlight would disappear. Just as the 2 blood swords were about to charge over again, Xiaoqun spun around, and a light flashed on his forehead. A purple talisman soared into the sky. Burn, immortal will of thunder. A strand of flame shot out from Xiaoqun's fingertip and landed on the talisman. Wuxia. The purple talisman burned, illuminating the surroundings. The higher it rose, the brighter the light became. The vast magic energy in Xiaoqun's sea of consciousness burned continuously, providing this purple lightning talisman with an endless supply of energy. When the fireball tore through the sky instantly lit up. It was a wondrous feeling. One could see the night recede like the receding tide in one's hand. The blurry silhouette on the other side gradually appeared in front of you as the curtain of night faded away. Chapter 889. The blazing sun shone brightly, and Xiaoqun stood below it. When the light illuminated the entire dragonwood star, the uneasy feeling in his heart immediately vanished. It's morning already. Using his own will to light up the sky, this Xiaoqun really has deep heavenly sage laws. I understand now. Xiaoqun is trying to flip day and night, suppressing the power of the starlight to its weakest point. In the end, the Keita Rahu chop uses the 9 heavens astral art as its foundation. It would be hard not to be affected. However, this light practically illuminated the entire dragonwood star. The drain is too great. Is Xiaoqun not afraid of dying from exhaustion? The blazing sun was piercing to the eyes. Several people were not used to the change from night to day. They squinted slightly, shocked by Xiaoqun's generosity. With a raise of his hand, Xiaoqun flipped day and night. How many people could have such boldness, daring to use their own will to light up a star? He gently waved his sleeves, and the 2 blood swords flying at him were swept aside. Then they flew around chaotically in the air. In a moment of carelessness, An unlucky corpse race cultivator got struck by the blood swords. Before this corpse race cultivator could even cry out miserably, he was sucked dry, leaving only his skin behind. This sight was horrifying. This Keitarahu chop was too vicious. The mysterious phenomenon of the falling snow drifting song, and the zither and flute playing together weakened and turned blurry under the illumination of the sunlight. The starlight disappeared, and the zither and flute's music sounded like mournful music, lingering in the air. The scholar Long Fei's expression changed slightly. He had not expected Xiaoqun to use such a tyrannical method to suppress his nine heavens astral art and resolve the situation of the Keitarahu chop. How arrogant! Do you really think that you can flip day and night, covering the sky with a flip of your hand? The 9 brilliant star venerates have boundless divine strength. Respect my will and break the sky with a flick of my finger. Long Fei shouted ferociously and formed hand seals. The starlight behind him gathered into 9 crystalline star venerates. These 9 brilliant star venerates represented the Keitarahu star, the Wuji star, the flame star, the greenwood star, the heavenly water star, the void earth star, the storm star, and the snowdrift star. Every one of them was born at the same time as the Kunlun realm. They were comparable to the sun, the moon, and the other famous stars. There were many martial techniques and cultivation techniques that could draw on the power of the stars. These 9 stars were the object of worship. The 9 heavenly astral art was one of the best. It was the cornerstone secret of the Myriad Star Gate, an ancient sovereign martial sect. Long Fei wanted to use the power of these 9 star venerates deity statues to instantly break Xiaoqun's sky-covering move. Star Xiaoan Chunin in Chunin. Chunin in Chun would be the sky. Long and bright, and would Chun wood in with day. With. He would in with day. With. And. The sun is merciless. The bright moon is flawless. The sun and the moon shine together. Long Fei, do you really dare to compete with the sun and the moon with your starlight? Xiaoqun shouted at Long Fei as he took a step forward in the air. When Xiaoqun stepped forward, the sea below churned continuously. It seemed like it could not withstand Xiaoqun's rage. The sun and the moon appearing together. Unexpectedly, there is such a miraculous scene. This Xiaoqun is too horrifying. Before the radiance of the sun and the moon, Long Fei's 9 astral stars art is indeed like a grain of rice. How unfortunate. To think that Xiaoqun managed to reverse the night and make the sun and moon appear at the same time, suppressing such a powerful cultivation technique. The sun is yang, and the moon is yin. Xiaoqun being able to perfectly combine the light of the sun and the moon might have something to do with his newly comprehended flawless saber Dao. Flawless, flawless, flawless. This sun and moon shining together is truly flawless. Long Fei, you probably don't have a chance anymore. When Xiaoqun raised his hand, day and night reversed. Then he waved his hand again, and the sun and moon shone together. These 2 moves of Xiaoqun's were truly shocking. No one had ever heard of someone using a martial technique like this before. When Long Fei was questioned by Xiaoqun, he immediately felt like the entire world was pushing him aside, mocking him for overestimating himself. He was just a grain of rice, and yet he dared to compete with the sun and the moon. This was not an illusion but a genuine suppression of power. Right now, Xiaoqun could materialize the sun and the moon. With a flip of his hand, he could control day and night, completely grasping the power of Dragon with Star's heavenly Tao. If Xiaoqun did not allow the light of the stars to appear, the world would naturally push Long Fei aside. If Xiaoqun shouted that the other party dared to compete with the sun and the moon, the world would naturally mock Long Fei. Long Fei vomited a mouthful of blood. Xiaoqun had forced the 9 astral stars art to the point where it could no longer circulate. This was the first time someone had used such a tyrannical method to scatter the 9 astral stars art. Good. Xiaoqun, I have repeatedly raised my estimate of your strength. However, I discovered that I still underestimated you. Long Fei wiped away the blood at the corner of his lips. His fair skin no longer had any trace of blood. Suddenly, a beam of white light shot out from his forehead, and a 2-meter-long trident appeared in his hand. The instant the white light appeared, a destructive aura spread out. Kasi. White bones appeared around Long Fei's body one after another. sternum, ribs, calf bones, wrists, and arms. Under the silk-like light, the bones quickly stitched together, forming a massive set of white bone armor that protected Long Fei. A pale white flame burned in the white bone's eye sockets. The massive set of white bones seemed to be alive. The lower jaw of the skull-like head was open, looking very sinister. White bone dermic aspect. Xiao Chen exclaimed softly when he saw the skeleton completely stitched together. He had heard of this white bone dermic aspect before. It was said that it was a cultivation technique created by the corpse race's white bone monarch, the white bone technique. When cultivated to the 10th layer, it would form an avatar. This was not a simple avatar, but a complete life. If the main body died, the avatar would not be destroyed and could still be resurrected. Furthermore, the dermic aspect's battle prowess was not low. It had all sorts of wondrous uses. For example, when it attached itself to Long Fei, his defense, attack, speed, and aura would all increase by 2 or 3 times. While the others were exclaiming about the white bone dermic incarnation, Xiao Chen fixed his gaze on the trident in Long Fei's hand, which contained a boundless state of destruction. For some reason, this trident gave him a very familiar feeling. Long Fei held the trident with one hand and casually waved it. The white bone dermic aspect also made a corresponding move. Immediately, a small dragon-like black aura began to revolve in the trajectory of the trident. Xiao Chen, if you think that you can sit back and relax after breaking my 9 heavenly astral art, then you are gravely mistaken. After all, I, Long Fei, am the white bone sovereign's descendant. This white bone dermic aspect is my true trump card. Xiao Chen formed hand seals and retracted them. The blazing sun in the sky descended and turned into a purple talisman floating quietly above his head. Night fell once again. Only the bright moon did not set, shining brightly like fire. That's exactly what I wanted. If you only have this much ability, you are not fit to be the whetstone for my flawless saber Dao. Make your move. This Xiao will keep you company at any time. Xiao Chen's white clear wind robes fluttered, and his long hair fluttered, revealing the light blue Neptune headscarf. His delicate facial features gave off a sharp light that radiated from every angle of his body. Long Fei took a step forward. It was only a short step, but the huge white bone dermic aspect could already attack Xiao Chen. The trident thrust out gently, heading for Xiao Chen's forehead. Dang! Xiao Chen did not move back. He pointed with his right hand, and a cold saber light flickered. The tip of his finger was a saber light condensed from sparks. When it clashed with the trident, it gave off a melodious clang. The chi of ruin on the trident seemed to be able to destroy everything. It wanted to destroy that electric light with brute force. The white bone dermic aspect opened its mouth and let out a dull roar as it pressed down. Xiao Chen smiled faintly. He had the immortal will of thunder. It was called immortal. Naturally, he would not let you destroy it so easily, even if it was your will of ruin. The purple talisman above his head descended, and a beam of light encased Xiao Chen. Then he took another step forward. Instead of retreating, he advanced and pushed hard. Unexpectedly, Long Fei and the huge white bone dermic aspect were pushed into the air by Xiao Chen's finger. I finally understand how you obtained this trident of yours. You actually refined the annihilation throne into a bone weapon. When Xiao Chen's finger came into contact with the trident, the red and black thrones in his sea of consciousness immediately spun excitedly, nearly leaping out. How could Xiao Chen not understand? At this moment, Long Fei's expression completely changed. He was somewhat astonished as he exclaimed, "Throne! You have a throne on you as well. I want this bone weapon forged from the ruined throne." Xiao Chen smiled, and a grave expression appeared in his eyes. Even if he had to use his magic skills as a trump card, he had to obtain this ruined throne. Long Fei's expression recovered. He smiled coldly and said, "You are really arrogant. You have not even drawn your saber yet, and you still want to take my ruined trident. You'd better let me take your throne." Dark underworld bone flame. The white bone dermic aspect opened its mouth and spat out a black flame at Xiao Chen. Amidst the flames, there was a strong chill. Wherever it passed, the dust in the air would be frozen into ice flowers. Xiao Chen could not dodge in time. His hand came in contact with it. The cold chi immediately penetrated his skin and permeated his blood. Then, It surged forward and sealed Xiao Chen's entire left arm in ice. What a tyrannical flame! By the time Xiao Chen reacted and used his law energy to block this flame, his right arm was already covered in frost. Many ice flowers bloomed, absorbing the life force in Xiao Chen's right arm. Long Fei laughed loudly and said, "This dark underworld bone flame is ranked 6th among the inattributed flames. I obtained it after a narrow escape from death in the 9 layers of hell. Xiao Chen, this arm of yours is completely crippled." Right after Long Fei said that, he swung the trident through the air. The huge white bone dermic aspect raised the trident image, and did the same thing as Long Fei, chopping down at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen's momentum was heavy. The trident created a strong, destructive wind that blew to both sides, forming a rapidly spinning storm. Space seemed like it would tear at any moment as a destructive aura surged out. Xiao Chen tapped his left shoulder with his right hand, and the lunar true flame's origin flame in his left eye flowed out from his fingertip. When it touched the ice flowers, they shattered. The lunar true flame absorbed the strand of dark underworld bone flame in his right arm. Xiao Chen's lunar true flame was formed by using a strand of lunar true flame that did not contain any origin flame to devour other inattributed flames. Chapter 890. It was far from the true lunar true flame of the world. However, after consuming the extreme Yin flame and the netherworld flame, its origin flame was already the size of a soybean. No matter what, it would have some might. Furthermore, it was ranked much higher than the netherworld bone flame. Naturally, it was not difficult for it to easily absorb a strand of the netherworld bone flame. You have quite a few good things on you. Coincidentally, my lunar true flame needs to advance. Watch as I take out your netherworld bone flame's origin flame later. Xiao Chen moved his arms freely. He smiled faintly and clenched his right hand into a fist. Then he punched at the incoming trident. He used the myriad heaven divine fists deity's descending secret technique, gathering veritable essence energy, magic energy and vital qi, erupting with tenfold combat prowess. Bang! The white bone dermic incarnation with a ferocious aura was knocked back. It spun in the air and fell towards the sea. Didn't you want to see my saber? I'll show you what my saber is now. With a cold snort, Xiao Chen executed Thunder Dragon steps and chased after the falling Long Fei at an even faster speed. A bright light burst forth from Xiao Chen's body. Instantly, the sharpest saber in the world, flawless, came out of its scabbard. Using my palm as a saber, my feet as a saber, my wrist as a saber, my hair as a saber, my body as a saber, I am the saber, and the saber is me. This saber was called flawless. This Tao was perfect and flawless. In an instant, Xiao Chen closed in on Long Fei and formally executed his flawless saber Tao. Sharp fist lights filled with saber edges. Unparalleled leg shadows filled with saber edges. 3,000 strands of hair fell like a waterfall filled with saber edges. What Long Fei saw, what his ears heard, and what his body felt, he felt like thousands upon thousands of sabers were attacking him relentlessly. All sorts of tricky sabers flew at him, making him unable to imagine the trajectory of these sabers. That place was a sea of sabers, a world of sabers. Saber domain. Such a scene made several of the old men in the surrounding sky exclaim involuntarily. Aside from the boundless sabers, only Long Fei's white bone dermic incarnation remained, doing its best to fight with the sabers. Saber domain, the domain of the saber. Once it is executed, it is filled with the sharpness of a saber, able to break through all techniques. After being trapped, no matter how powerful the enemy is, after suffering the pain of 1,000 cuts, they will die. A genius bladesman like Feng Xingxing nearly lost his cool and cried out, "Saber domain." That was a domain that only the legendary ancient saber monarchs could execute. It required exceptional talent for the saber to comprehend. Currently, there were not many famous saber emperors. There were almost none who could use a saber domain. However, there were a few experts who could use a sword domain. Could it really be a saber domain? After a while, the grave Feng Xingxing heaved a sigh of relief. He said, "Fortunately, it is not a saber domain. It is just my body as a saber, turning everything I touch into a saber. It is very similar to the legendary saber domain, but there is an essential difference. However, Bai Wuxia sighed and said, Feng Xingxing, it is too early for you to relax. This is not a saber domain, but it clearly has the vague form of a saber domain. Given this fellow's talent, he will definitely be able to comprehend it. In the future, if you see him execute a saber domain, don't be shocked. Feng Xingxing appeared distracted for a while. Then he could not help smiling bitterly. Haha, it looks like I am deceiving myself and others. I am not as thorough as Brother Bai. You are probably going to lose your bet with Xiaochen. Bai Wuxia had a complicated expression. However, he also heaved a sigh of relief. He said, there will always be a time to settle all grudges and grudges. If I lose this time, I will be able to let go of the obsession in my heart. This might not be a bad thing for me. There are many people stronger than me in this world. The sons of the three holy masters are stronger than me, and Juanqi is stronger than me, and those newly born geniuses of the ancient races are stronger than me. Why should I take it to heart that Xiaochen is stronger than me? He is just putting on a show and refusing to admit defeat. Brother Feng, do me a favor. Feng Xingxing said with a strange expression. Please speak. Whoosh. A jade strip flew towards Feng Xingxing. Bai Wuxia stretched out his hand and caught it. He said, this contains the snow race inheritance that Xiaochen wants. Will you please help me pass it on? Feng Xingxing grasped the jade strip and said, the match is not over yet. Brother Bai, why are you leaving before you finish looking? I am already 30 years old. I became famous at a young age. Along the way, I have been fighting. It is not that I have seen too little. Rather, I have seen too much. However, I still cannot see through it. I am going into closed-door cultivation. If I cannot see through it, I will not come out. I will just pretend that I do not have a name in this world. Whatever bloody age of geniuses has nothing to do with me. Bai Wuxia. Snowflakes drifted down and landed on the surface of the sea, forming a path of ice and snow. Bai Wuxia walked on the waves. It was as Bai Wuxia said. Even after a long time, Feng Xingxing did not hear any news of him. At this moment, everyone's attention was focused on the shocking battle between Xiaochen and Long Fei. No one paid attention to Bai Wuxia, who walked on the waves in the wind and snow. Long Fei, who was surrounded by boundless saber lights, did not appear. He did not collapse as everyone expected. Instead, the white bone dermic incarnation materialized 1,000 arms and sent out a destructive aura, not willing to admit defeat. When Xiaochen made a bet with Xiaochen, whoever gave out first would be the loser. My 1,000 hands white bone dermic incarnation originates from a mysterious Buddhist sect secret technique. The white bone dermic incarnation is the predecessor of the 10,000 hands Buddha. My energy is boundless. You are using your body as a saber, materializing the flawless saber Tao. You are going to be disappointed if you want to grind me to death. At this moment, Long Fei's dermic incarnation looked very dignified. He ignored the bloody wounds on his body as he brandished his 1,000 arms, clashing wildly with Xiaochen, who had already turned into boundless saber lights. The shockwaves of the two's battle on the surface of the sea grew increasingly wider. The seawater surged, and unrecoverable gorges appeared in the vast and boundless sea. It was like the ground had split open, an incredible sight. Once Long Fei's 1,000 hands white bone dermic incarnation unfolded, it immediately knocked back Xiaochen's advantage, resulting in a stalemate. The battle continued. However, time seemed to freeze forever. That bright moon illuminated the sky. Its light did not scatter. How could night leave? As the bright moon did not scatter, the spectators could not help but have a vague sense of time. They did not know how long the two had been fighting already. Was it one night, one day, or even more days and nights? Xiaochen had already forgotten the initial purpose of this battle. He only felt extremely carefree. His mind was filled with information and inspiration about the flawless saber Tao. Suddenly, he remembered the four-season saber technique that he once cultivated. The four-season saber technique grew without end, cycling without end. If he executed it with his flawless saber Tao, he could definitely grind down this 1,000 hands white bone dermic incarnation with boundless energy. Once Xiaochen thought of it, he immediately executed it. Using the boundless state of the flawless saber Tao, he executed the four seasons of spring, summer, autumn, and winter at the same time. Immediately, 4 different scenes appeared on the 4 sides of the Thousand Hands white-boned Dermic incarnation. One side was like a spring breeze with peach blossoms blooming. One side was like a blazing sun burning the land. One side was like a gentle autumn wind, causing leaves to fall from the branches. One side was covered in pure white snow, freezing the land for 500 kilometers around. Each side was a saber. Compared to the countless sabers earlier, there were only 4 sabers now. The sabers were named spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Flawless 4 seasons cycle endlessly. Good. 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 Xiaochen said good 3 times in his heart. He was the one who created this 4-season saber technique in the first place. Flawless 4 seasons was compatible with the flawless saber Dao. Unexpectedly, it went unexpectedly smoothly, allowing him to execute it perfectly. Long Fei's expression slowly turned frustrated. He discovered that the 4 seasons continued endlessly, vaguely resonating with the supreme cycle of the Great Tao. Unexpectedly, it showed no intention of stopping. Damn it! Thousand Hands white-boned Dermic incarnation, explode! Seeing that he was slowly being suppressed, Long Fei roared ferociously. The Dermic incarnation of the Thousand Hands white-boned Dermic incarnation swelled continuously. Then, without giving Xiaochen any time to react, it exploded. Unexpectedly, Long Fei chose to explode his Dermic incarnation. This was a decisive technique that dealt 1,000 damage to the enemy and 800 damage to oneself. Bang! The Thousand Hands white-boned Dermic incarnation exploded, and the aura of destruction immediately reached its peak. In an instant, the peach blossoms fell, the blazing sun was extinguished, the autumn wind blew, and the white snow melted. The flawless 4 seasons was destroyed just like that. Wounds covered Long Fei's body. Blood flowed from his eyes, nose, mouth, and ears, making him look extremely horrifying. He no longer had the elegance of a scholar. Long Fei looked at Xiaochen, who was also in a sorry state, his physical body cracked. Then he laughed loudly and said, "My white-boned Dermic incarnation only needs to recuperate for a month before the Thousand Hands Buddha statue, and it will recover. From the very start, I was undefeatable. Even if I do not have much vital qi now, you are like a dried-up lamp. You cannot do anything to me." In the end, this match ends in a draw. Xiaochen wiped the blood from the corner of his lips. However, he discovered that he could not wipe it all off. His heart and lungs were torn apart. Without recuperating, he would not be able to recover temporarily. The self-detonation of the white-boned Dermic incarnation was horrifying in the first place. Furthermore, the will of destruction from the trident reached its peak. Xiaochen took the brunt of it, and was indeed significantly injured. Unexpectedly, Long Fei still had such a ruthless move. However, this Long Fei was too naive to think of a draw. Xiaochen smiled and said, "Look up at the sky. Do you not notice anything wrong?" Long Fei's expression changed. When he looked up, he saw the bright moon in the sky, perfect and flawless. It was even more beautiful than any of the bright moons he had seen before. "That's not right. Although I did not pay attention to the fight with him, at the very least, 1 night has passed. Why is the sky not bright yet? Do you find it strange that the sky is not bright yet? Let this bright moon, which has been preparing for you for a long time, tell you. With a flip of my hand, I can make the night disappear. With a flip of my hand, I can make the sun not rise." Xiaochen pointed, and boundless moonlight gathered at Xiaochen's fingertip, forming a flawless blade that shot out. Long Fei wanted to dodge, but found that there was nowhere to hide. Flawless bright moon. This world is filled with moonlight. Where can you hide? Cassier. Long Fei was instantly chopped in half. His life force started to fade quickly. Xiaochen opened his hand and grabbed the trident in the other party's hand. It had been too long. Looking at the dissipating bright moon, some people could not react. They thought that Xiaochen had absorbed all the moonlight from the real bright moon and scattered it. Unexpectedly, they felt pity for it. However, when the bright moon disappeared, they looked up and saw that there was actually another bright moon in the sky. Everyone's vision blurred, thinking that they were in a dream. After a while, they understood that this was the real bright moon. The battle between Xiaochen and Long Fei lasted from night to dawn, and then to night again. Chapter 891. This battle was like a dream. If not for the White-Bone Sovereign's descendant, Long Fei, with his body split in half, some people might have thought that it was a dream. Xiao Chun dragged his weak body and took advantage of the moment when Long Fei's life force was fading to infuse his spiritual sense into the trident. He erased Long Fei's spiritual mark and carved his own spiritual mark deeply into it. A feeling of fatigue appeared in Xiao Chun's mind. The bright moon hung high in the sky, storing up a lot of energy. However, the magic energy in his sea of consciousness was nearly depleted. Xiao Chun endured the dizziness and discomfort as he quickly imprinted his spiritual mark into the trident. As Long Fei's spiritual mark roared in dissatisfaction, the imprint finally succeeded. Without saying anything more, Xiao Chun withdrew the trident into his sea of consciousness. Then he turned around and retreated, going as far as he could. Most genius cultivators with a large sect behind them would have a martial emperor's will clone inserted into them. Although there was only one chance, Xiao Chun could not be sure whether Long Fei had used it or not. Long Fei's life force was already very weak after being split in half. However, he was a martial sage and cultivated some secret techniques. His brain was not destroyed, so he was not completely dead. If a sovereign martial emperor arrived, it was entirely possible to save Xiao Chun. Kasie. Right after Xiao Chun retreated, a bone spike pierced through the afterimage he left behind. However, the afterimage did not scatter. When one looked carefully, this bone spike, which did not reveal much of its sharpness, actually pinned Xiao Chun's afterimage to space. It truly pierced through space. You run really fast. I would be too embarrassed to make a move against a junior like you a second time. Take care. A figure of light came out from Long Fei's forehead. Its appearance was indistinguishable, but one could hear a suppressive voice. The moment the voice rang out, all the cultivators present, including Xiao Chun, could not endure that pressure. They all bent over and prostrated themselves. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Water splashed everywhere. Several cultivators, whose cultivations were too low, could not endure the pressure and fell into the sea. White-Bone King of the Corpse God Palace. This is a will clone of his. It is too strong, too strong. This is a sovereign martial emperor, inexplicably strong. I cannot resist him at all. If he wanted to kill me, he would not even need to lift a finger. The White-Bone King's will avatar stretched out a clump of bloody light and slowly connected the two halves of Long Fei's corpse. Sovereign martial emperors already cultivated an undying body. Their understanding of the secrets of the physical body had already reached an inconceivable level. It was not strange for such a wondrous scene to come from a sovereign martial emperor. However, even if a sovereign martial emperor made a move and saved his life, Long Fei would need at least half a year to recover. Of course, although he didn't gain as much comprehension as Xiao Chun, he still benefited a lot from this battle. After half a year of cultivation, he would probably make great progress. The scarlet light turned into a cocoon, and the White-Bone Sovereign's will clone carried Long Fei, who was in the scarlet cocoon. Then, it turned into a beam of light and flew into the universe, ignoring this matter. Huang Pufeng heaved a sigh of relief and said loudly, "Goodbye, White-Bone King." The factions of the Bushan Palace also sent off the White-Bone Sovereign respectfully in unison. No matter what, the White-Bone Sovereign still had the air of a senior. He did not vent his anger on the others because of Long Fei's miserable state. In that case, there would not be any changes to the bet between Xiao Chun, Long Fei, and Wei Hua. Clearly, these major characters did not intend to participate in these small fights. Furthermore, while the juniors of the corpse race and the human race were fighting to the death, the upper echelons of the two sides might be chatting happily, discussing how to go on experiential training in the starry heavens, or exchanging their comprehensions on cultivation. The 5 major races of the Kunlun realm had an explosive number of people, more than 10 billion. Although it was hard to become an Emperor Wu, there would be a few Emperor Wu in less than 200 years. Furthermore, Emperor Wu could live for at least 2,000 years. As of now, there were many Emperor Wu in the Kunlun realm. The truly rare ones were sovereign martial emperors. As of now, there were no more than 20 known sovereign martial emperors. At such a level, it would be hard for them to have any deep grudges or hatred. Most things could be resolved through discussion. Wei Hua showed a sullen expression as he waved his hand hatefully. The corpse race will keep its promise. 3 days from now, we will leave the 2 resource stars that we occupied. Let's go. Wei Hua led the corpse race cultivators and a large group of demonic corpses away in a somewhat sorry state. On this trip to Dragonwood Star, they had suffered a double loss. Not only did they not achieve their goal of plundering, but they also lost 2 resource stars that they occupied. This was a heavy loss. The Muddy Sky Gate was here to fish in troubled waters in the first place. Given the current situation, there were no benefits to reap or a good show to watch. Then, Wuxia looked at the people of Bushan Palace, who all had malicious gazes. He chuckled. Naturally, he would not remain here for long. Xiaochen, Wuxia, admire you greatly. You truly live up to your reputation as a descendant of the Qing Emperor. When you have time in the future, come to the Primal Chaos Domain's Muddy Sky Gate as a guest. Wuxia will definitely host a banquet and put on a grand show. After saying that, Wuxia led the group of Muddy Sky Gate cultivators away on the King Grade warship. If they did not leave now, the people of Bushan Palace might get angry and send them flying. If that happened, they would not be able to leave even if they wanted to. 3 days later, Bushan Palace successfully took over 2 resource stars. The news of Xiao Chen's 2 consecutive victories, defeating the Iron Hand Sovereign, the Underworld Fire Sovereign, and the White Bone Sovereign, reached the upper echelon of Bushan Palace. According to the agreement, Xiao Chen had obtained 1 million military merits. Furthermore, he had found out the spies and killed some corpse race martial sages and various demonic corpses. His total military merits reached more than 1.5 million. However, Xiao Chen did not attend the distribution of military merits at the headquarters. Firstly, he was recuperating, so it was not convenient for him to go. Secondly, Huang Pufeng would not be able to reward Xiao Chen with this amount of military merits. No matter how much Huang Pufeng gave him, it would not be worth 1.5 million military merits. However, after the distribution, Huang Pufeng met with Xiao Chen alone and symbolically gave him 1 million astral coins, some black patterned gold, heavenly windgrass, and other specialties of Dragonwood Star. At the same time, he also gave Xiao Chen a piece of news. 3 months from now, Bushan Palace will hold a king conferral ceremony at the headquarters of the Haotian Star. At that time, they will carve out a province in the Tianwu domain as your territory. Of course, there will be other rewards as well. After Xiao Chen heard that, a smile appeared on his pale face. Xiao Chen did not care about the other benefits. As long as he could get a province, he would have profited greatly. In the future, when he established the Dragon's Gate, he would not have to worry about a place to build his foundation. However, Xiao Chen did not know which province they would carve out for him. He hoped that it would not be an overly desolate land. There were several desolate and uninhabited places in the Tianwu domain. Firstly, there were no resources. Secondly, there were no people. He would have to start from scratch. That would be too tiring. However, this did not matter. What Xiao Chen cared about was land. Although the Kunlun realm was vast, there were plenty of desolate lands. However, if you really wanted to find a place without an owner, it would be almost impossible. Even an abandoned place would have a nominal owner. These people were not people to offend. If Xiao Chen was not careful, he might end up in big trouble. This Xiao would like to ask Lord Huangpu a question. Can you tell me who the current palace master of my Bushan Palace is? The Bushan Palace was made up of the various large sects of the Tianwu domain. Among them, the 3 holy masters held absolute leadership. However, Xiao Chen had heard that the palace master was not one of the 3 holy masters. Huang Pufeng smiled and said, "The palace master has not made an official appearance for several thousand years already. You juniors might not know this, but that is normal. Right now, the palace master of the Bushan Palace is a powerful sovereign martial emperor of the same generation as the Qing Emperor, the Thunder and Lightning Palace's Thunder King. So it is him. That makes sense. With such a person as the strongest human expert to keep the 3 holy masters in check, it would be best for him to be the palace master of the Bushan Palace. The Thunder King was from the same generation as the Qing Emperor. Now he was close to 10,000 years old. His strength was unfathomable. It was because of him that the human race could barely withstand the immense pressure from the deity race. Since he was from the same generation as the Qing Emperor, Xiaochen wondered if this Thunder King had any friendship with the Qing Emperor. If he did, he should be able to attend this king conferral ceremony without worrying too much. He would not have to fear the three holy masters too much. When Xiaochen had time, he would see if he could get some information from the Haotian martial emperor. After Huang Pufeng left, a light flashed on Xiaochen's forehead, and a trident appeared in his hand. He revealed a smile in his eyes. For the time being, the greatest benefit of this trip was the trident of destruction. Unexpectedly, the ruined throne could be refined into something else. This broadened Xiaochen's train of thought. Could the massacre throne and the death throne be refined into weapons as well? Clearly, if they were refined into weapons, the thrones would be able to bring out greater might. It was a very simple example. When fighting with others, would you be able to bring out the power of a throne or a weapon? The answer was obvious. A weapon was a lethal weapon, and a throne was a precious weapon. If one wanted to bring out the will within it and bring out greater might, it would be more practical to refine it into a weapon. Furthermore, the shape of the throne was just the surface. It did not affect the state it represented. After thinking about this, Xiaochen already had an answer in his heart. It would be better to refine the throne into a weapon. However, Xiaochen had sworn that if he could not resurrect Ao Jiao, he would not use another saber. Furthermore, now that Xiaochen was using his body as a saber, he did not need a physical saber. He was the saber. It would be better to refine the throne into another weapon. Xiaochen did not think about this for now. He put away the ruined trident, and took out a jade strip with a flip of his hand. The contents of the jade strip were the snow race's inheritance that Xiaochen was interested in. The snow race could be considered a strong ancient race. They had uncanny control over the power of ice and snow. Xiaochen had heard that several ancient races had powerful geniuses recently. He wondered if the snow race had such geniuses as well. Xiaochen sent his spiritual sense into the jade strip and closed his eyes. Then he started to carefully comprehend the information in it. The information in the jade strip was as vast as the sea. It talked about the origins of ice and snow, how to control ice and snow, and how to grasp ice and snow. Xiaochen cultivated the will of thunder. He could not waste time cultivating the will of ice and snow again. The information in the jade strip could only be used as a reference. However, the winter saber in the flawless four seasons touched on the ice Tao. Xiaochen could use the knowledge in the jade strip to complete his winter saber. Chapter 892. When Xiaochen opened his eyes, he looked at the time in the room. He had spent 2 days on this comprehension. With a thought, snowflakes drifted around Xiaochen. The cold qi in the room plummeted as if winter had arrived. Xiaochen stretched out his hand, and light flickered. The snow became a saber, and a cold wind blew. Xiaochen took a deep breath, and a bright light appeared in his eyes. All the snowflakes suddenly surrounded him and started spinning. It was like thousands of people practicing the saber in the snow. Saber lights flashed, cold winds blew, and snow flew everywhere. Xiaochen smiled faintly, revealing a satisfied expression. This winter snow saber was finally complete. Using the state of ice and snow as a saber, these snowflakes filling the air were my saber. Xiaochen stood up and stretched out his hand to catch a snowflake. Then he placed it under his nose and gently sniffed it. His entire body felt cool. Xiaochen caught this snowflake with 2 fingers and casually waved it. All the snowflakes in the room moved with him, forming an ice flower drifting about. When Xiaochen scattered his law energy and stopped circulating the four-season saber technique, the cold in the room disappeared. Only the ice flower remained, remaining eternally. As Xiaochen paced around the room, he continued thinking. The flawless saber Tao, using the body as a saber and the thoughts as a saber, now had a general direction. However, the true moves were only flawless bright moon and flawless four seasons. Furthermore, they were adapted from the moves of the past. Xiaochen had to comprehend a few more moves. However, this was a flash of inspiration. He could not force it. There are still 3 more moves for the Myriad Heaven Divine Fist. I have to find time to finish practicing them. As for the Dragon Subduing Slash, there are still 10 more moves. I have to find time to completely refine them and merge them into my flawless saber Dao. Just as Xiaochen was thinking this, the door suddenly opened. Xiao Xian, Jinlin, and Lu Ke walked in. The instant the door opened, the crystalline ice flower drifted down towards the three. Xiao Xian's eyes lit up, and she stretched out her hand to catch the ice flower. Hee, senior brother, your flower. Xiao Xian walked over and handed over the flower. Xiaochen smiled faintly and waved his hand. I'll give it to you. It contains some of my comprehensions of the winter saber. At a critical moment, it might be able to save your life. When Xiao Xian heard that, she was overjoyed. She quickly expressed her thanks and carefully put the flowers into her universe ring. In the Battle of Dragonwood Star, under Xiao Chen's guidance, the three gained a lot of military merits. This was especially so for Jin Lin. As he said, he killed 10 superior grade martial sages of the corpse race, 100 inferior grade martial sages, and more than 1,000 monarch grade demonic corpses. Xiao Chen's 100,000 military merits was no worse than Feng Xingxing's. Senior brother, how are your injuries? Now that there are no more battles on Dragonwood Planet, we have to hurry back to the Haotian sect, Jin Lin said. This time, Xiao Chen was severely injured. The white bone incarnation contained the will of destruction, and was too close to him. If not for his rank 3 sage body, his internal organs would have ruptured, and he would have died. Let's go. If we do not make a move for half a month, we should be fine. If we run into any astral beasts along the way, we will have to rely on you, Xiao Chen said jokingly with a relaxed expression. Jin Lin patted his chest and said, Don't worry. Leave it to me, Jin Lin. Senior brother, rest assured and recuperate. When Xiao Chen left, he saw that the Haotian sect's juniors had already been waiting for a long time. When he saw this group of juniors who had gained something new, he felt deeply moved. Greetings, senior brother. When the group of juniors saw Xiao Chen come out, they immediately stood up and greeted him respectfully. Now not only was Xiao Chen strong, but his demeanor had also won over this group of juniors, gaining their sincere worship. Xiao Chen opened his mouth and spat, and the Dragon's Gate's warship flew out. Everyone quickly leaped onto it. Standing at the bow, Xiao Chen raised his hand, and 18 sails rose up. Jets shot out from the stern, and the Dragon's Gate's warship flew into the starry heavens in its proudest manner. Xiao Chen felt some emotions in his heart. 10,000 years ago, the Dragon's Gate was not destroyed. He wondered if the Qing Emperor was like him today. Xiao Chen led the Dragon's Gate's disciples on the Dragon's Gate's warship. He led a group of proud people, and his own glory to roam the universe. As the Dragon's Gate's warship went far away, 2 discordant golden figures appeared in the starry heavens. Based on their auras, they were actually the blue-robed emperors, far surpassing Xiao Chen's cultivation. He was conferred king for 1 million astral beasts, consecutively defeating the descendants of 3 sovereign martial emperors. The Divine Sun's worries were right. This fellow is truly a strong rival of the Divine Sun. After not appearing for 2 years, he became famous the moment he appeared. This fellow is really too high profile. Now that the chaos in the starry heaven Silver Lake is over, his fame from this battle will probably be no less than the Divine Sun's. However, it will not be easy to kill him. The Divine Sun probably wants the 2 of us to make a move, because he wants to be cannon fodder. Back then, how could the Qing Emperor not have left any backup plans? If we could really kill him, there would be no need for us to make a move. Someone would have already lost their patience. It does not matter. Since the Divine Sun erected a life deity statue for the 2 of us, in the future, when the Divine Sun ascends to the God-King position, he will naturally condense a deity throne for us. Of the 3,000 deities, the 2 of us will definitely have a place. Let's make our move. Be fast and we might succeed. The Dragon's Gate's warship moved quickly through the starry heavens. Xiao Chen stood at the bow, admiring the strange scenery of the universe. Occasionally, he controlled the advanced ancient demonic energy cannons hidden in the dragon mouths to blast the asteroids in the way into pieces. Just at this moment, the eternally dark starry heavens suddenly became as bright as day, dazzling everyone's eyes. The light vanished in a flash, and the starry heavens turned pitch black once more. The junior generation disciples at the bow were all startled. However, there had always been countless strange sights in the universe. It was not strange for them to encounter such a thing. Seeing that nothing had happened after a while, they all relaxed and went back to their own business. Xiaochen appeared calm as he looked at the sky. However, he felt somewhat shocked in his heart. What passed earlier was clearly a powerful bolt of electric light, several times stronger than the immortal lightning that the Thunder King left behind. Which senior expert just made a trip there? To think that he could easily light up the starry heavens of the universe. At the same time, in the palace where Diwuk resided in the deity race nation of the Kunlun realm, the two god statues suddenly cracked, directly breaking into nothingness. The obsession and life energy hidden in the god statues completely vanished. Inside the palace, Tian Yushi, who was writing on a golden book, sighed gently on his gorgeous face. He said, "You should have guessed this ending long ago." The two quasi-gods died, and their life deity statues were destroyed as well. They did not even have a chance to revive. Have you thought of how to explain this to the deity sovereign? Diwuk revealed a smile on his handsome face. He said, "I did not end up empty-handed. I finally know who is protecting him. I'll explain things to the deity sovereign. Give this person an invitation to the Heroes Convention as well." The Dragon's Gate's warship safely arrived at the Haotian Star after traveling for half a month without any surprises or danger. The Haotian sect disciples of Dragonwood Star were in the limelight. The news of Xiaochen defeating 3 sovereign martial emperors in a row had already reached the Haotian sect. On the ground, the first elder, Han Qinghe, led a group of inner sect elders out to welcome the Dragon's Gate's warship. When the warship landed, Xiaochen led 20 juniors down. Then he performed a cupped fist salute to the first elder and said, Xiaochen did not fail in his mission. He did not embarrass the Haotian sect or the Haotian sect disciples. The group of elders all smiled happily. The matter of Dragonwood Star had already spread far and wide. Xiaochen had allowed the Haotian sect to gain some face. Han Qinghe smiled and said, Jin Lin, bring your junior brothers and sisters and follow the elders to discuss the merits and rewards. The pavilion masters of the Refining Medicine Pavilion and the Equipment Forging Pavilion are all present. If you have any requests, just state them. The 20 juniors all revealed expressions of pleasant surprise. This was the first time someone casually raised a request. After saying a few words of consolation, Han Qinghe led Xiaochen away alone to the inner hall of the main sect. However, he did not enter. A person sat in the inner hall. It was actually the Haotian emperor. Beside him was the vice sect master that Xiaochen had met once before, a super expert with the cultivation of the blue-robed emperor. Xiaochen was stunned. He had not expected that Han Qinghe would bring him to meet these two major characters. This was completely unexpected. Xiaochen greets the sect master and the vice sect master. Xiaochen bowed and performed a cupped fist salute, greeting these two true major characters of the Haotian sect. The Haotian emperor sized up Xiaochen and felt very satisfied. He smiled warmly and said, What a great air of a grandmaster. 2 years of thinking, bitter cultivation, and silent comprehension. It looks like you have undergone a complete transformation. Sect master overpraises me. Compared to the 2 senior sect masters, Xiaochen's current accomplishments are nothing. If ordinary people praised him, he would be able to accept it without batting an eyelid. However, the Haotian emperor was rumored to be a major character not far from sovereign martial emperor. How could he accept the other party's praise? The vice sect master Ao Gu said, This time you made the Haotian sect famous. Your accomplishments in the starry heaven Silver Lake are even higher than those of your first senior sister, Xue Lingling. The sect master and I have to express our gratitude. If you have anything in particular that you want, you can mention it now. Xiaochen's heart skipped a beat. There were many things that he wanted. However, what he urgently needed were some spirit herbs and spirit flowers for the later layers of the firmament body tempering art. Xiaochen's current physical body had already surpassed the requirements for cultivating the firmament body tempering art. Unfortunately, the latter 5 layers of the firmament body tempering art required different spirit herbs for the 5 viscera and 6 bowels, the heart, liver, kidney, and stomach. These spirit herbs were not considered rare treasures. However, they were things that could only be found and not sought. Xiaochen had searched for them a few times but had not succeeded, making him feel very depressed. Many thanks to the two seniors for your kind intentions. Xiaochen is indeed in urgent need of some things. Heart-nourishing grass, bright yellow Ganoderma, daylily grass, heavenly learning vine and gilded fruit. The vice sect master Aogu muttered to himself for a while before saying, "These are spirit herbs for the 5 viscera. They are not too precious. It would be difficult for an ordinary person to find them. However, it is not difficult for us. Just wait for my news. I will get someone to deliver them to you in less than 5 days." Xiaochen rejoiced in his heart. Given this, the firmament body tempering art's consummation was just around the corner. If Xiaochen succeeded in cultivating the final 5 layers, it would be very difficult for his internal organs to be injured. He would not have to fear something like the white bone incarnation exploding again. The Haotian emperor smiled and said, "After this, we will discuss the matter of you being conferred king. At that time, the Bushin Palace will bestow you with a province. If you need the Haotian sect's help, you can ask at any time." Chapter 893. This could be considered a promise from the Haotian emperor. At the very least, if there was any trouble in that province in the future, the Haotian sect could be directly used. This was a rare opportunity. Xiaochen took the opportunity to ask the 2 sect masters some questions about martial techniques. Furthermore, he asked about the Thunder King. However, the Haotian emperor was tight-lipped and did not reveal too much to Xiaochen. Only after Xiaochen left did the Haotian emperor's expression change slightly. He asked, "Aogu, what do you think of this Xiaochen?" Aogu thought for a while before replying. At such a young age, he already has the air of a grandmaster. If nothing unexpected happens, he might grow to the level of the Qing emperor back then. The Haotian emperor whispered. The Thunder King made a move on his behalf. When Aogu heard this, his expression suddenly changed. He exclaimed, "Is that true? The Thunder King made a move?" The Thunder King was a powerful sovereign martial emperor of the same generation as the Qing emperor. However, the Qing emperor's brilliance was too great, causing the Haotian emperor to overlook this person. It was only after the Qing emperor died that the Thunder King made a move a few times, easily destroying a few deity race divine kings. Only then did the Haotian emperor start to take this incredible major character seriously. However, the Thunder King had not made a move for many years already. He rarely even showed himself. The matters of the Bushin Palace had also been neglected for many years, handed over to the strongest Holy Lord, the Holy Lord Vermilion Bird. Everyone had nearly forgotten this name. Unexpectedly, the Thunder King made a move again. The Haotian emperor nodded and said, "At our level, the news has already spread." With one bolt of heavenly lightning, he destroyed 2 of the deity race's blue-robed emperors. The deity race's deity sovereign did not say anything. Instead, he sent someone to apologize. It seems that the Qing emperor really had a backup plan, and asked this old friend for help. Aogu said. However, the Thunder King doesn't have much time left in his lifespan. The Qing emperor has been dead for over 10,000 years. For him to be able to live until now is already quite heaven-defying. The next 10,000 years tribulation should be coming soon. A sovereign martial emperor would go through a time tribulation every 1,000 years. If one did not die and lived for more than 10,000 years, they would die. Every 1,000 years, this tribulation was called the 10,000 lifespan tribulation. And each tribulation was harder than the last. A large part of the reason why the Thunder King was a legendary character was that he was the sovereign martial emperor who had undergone this tribulation the most times. The time tribulation was the harvest of the heavenly Tao on sovereign martial emperors. Normally, if one could clear it once, one would be lucky to not die. Someone who could clear it again and again was truly heaven-defying. The Thunder King was such a heaven-defying character. The Haotian emperor said, "That is hard to say. The Thunder King is a living legend. From a certain point of view, he is even higher than the Qing emperor. After all, he is still alive, but the Qing emperor is already dead." Aogu thought of something and asked, "Sect Master, what do you mean?" The Haotian emperor nodded and said, "That's right. What I mean is to tie the fate of the Haotian sect to Xiao Chen's. Back then, I stood on his side. In the future I will stand on his side to the end." Ao Gu could not help but admire the Haotian emperor's courage. Back then, the Qing emperor had left behind many enemies. Despite the situation being unclear, Ao Gu chose to stand on Xiao Chen's side. Most Emperor Wu would not have had the courage to do so. However, if Xiao Chen really rose up, the Haotian sect would gain endless benefits. However, if it failed, the consequences would be unimaginable. Risk and opportunity coexisted. Only a truly bold person would dare to play this game of chess. The Thunder King's move gave the Haotian emperor great confidence, allowing him to continue playing this game of chess. The Haotian emperor also had his own goals. The human race needed a leader, and the Kunlun Great Realm needed a leader. He needed to complete the path that the Qing emperor did not complete, to complete the path that the predecessors did not complete. The Haotian emperor could not continue, but that did not mean that Xiao Chen could not. After Xiao Chen left the inner hall, he did not know that the Haotian emperor had already decided to stand behind him because of the Thunder King's move. At this moment, Xiao Chen was preparing to use the space-time tunnel to return to the Kunlun continent's Haotian province. He had a mountain peak with a peak spirit vein there. He could use it to stabilize his cultivation and cultivate the firmament body tempering art to great perfection. Haha, junior brother Xiao Chen. You really made senior sister wait for a long time. That's not right. I should call you the white-robed king now. With 1 million military merits, you are the youngest conferred sovereign personage of the Bushan Palace. Suddenly, a familiar figure appeared before Xiao Chen at the corner of the corridor. When Xiao Chen saw who it was, he could not help but rejoice. He exclaimed, "First senior sister, why are you here?" That was right. The person who came was his first senior sister, Shui Lingling. After not seeing her for 2 years, she had become even more elegant. Her gentle face looked even more exquisite. When she smiled faintly, no one dared to look at her carefully. Beside the Haotian planet's space-time tunnel, Xiao Chen and Shui Lingling casually sat under a lush spirit tree, chatting about their experiences. White-robed king. Who spread that nickname? I don't think I have a sovereign personage yet. Naturally, Xiao Chen found the white-robed king that Shui Lingling mentioned funny and helpless. Could it be that one had to be called such an unsophisticated name just because they wore white? Shui Lingling covered her mouth and smiled gently. I think that's pretty good. When the Bushan Palace conferred you a sovereign personage, you can go and fight for it. This sovereign personage sounds pretty nice. Oh right. This is a greeting gift for you. A crystalline silver flower petal with bubbles floating on it appeared in her palm. Then Shui Lingling handed it to Xiao Chen and said, "This is a specialty of the starry heaven silver lake, the petals of the heavenly silver flower." Xiao Chen received the silver flower petal and looked at it silently. The silver flower petal looked incredibly fresh and tender. He could even see the pathways on the leaves clearly. Strands of glassy silver energy flowed rapidly within it. When Xiao Chen felt the energy contained in it, he was startled. Unexpectedly, this tiny silver flower petal contained vast and pure law energy. That was right. This was law energy, not some spiritual energy of the world. After one absorbed it, one would need to convert it into their own law energy. If one consumed it directly, one would not need to do anything, and one's law energy would increase by 10 to 20%. This was too precious. Such a natural treasure that could allow a martial sage to increase their cultivation was simply too precious. Shui Lingling could tell what Xiao Chen was worried about. She consoled him softly. Just take it. The flower petal is only effective the first time. I already used it once. If I used it again, it would be a waste. Xiao Chen put away the flower petal. He could not help but feel somewhat embarrassed. Unexpectedly, he did not have any presentable gift on hand. Naturally, the most valuable thing in the universe ring was the 20 longevity fruits. However, Shui Lingling was still in her prime. She still had a long lifespan left. It would not be appropriate to give them away. There was also the lunar cassia flower in the immortal spirit ring. The lunar cassia flower was pretty good. Unfortunately, It was not as good as the heavenly silver flower. Xiaochen could only make a mental note of this. In the future, when he obtained something good, he would return the favor. After undergoing experiential training in the starry heaven Silver Lake, Xue Lingling's current strength had already reached peak medial grade martial sage. She was only a step shy of advancing to superior grade martial sage. Xue Lingling's aura was even more withdrawn and drawn out. Her cultivation was not exaggerated at all. In fact, it was even more stable than Xiaochen's. The sons of the three holy masters have not been conferred kingship, but you have. I received news that Xiao Hoju and Feng Wuji are very dissatisfied. I'm afraid that the king conferral ceremony will not be peaceful, Xue Lingling said when she thought of something. Xiaochen leaned against a tree trunk as leaves drifted before him. When he heard this, he smiled and said, I expected it long ago. What will come will come. I will wait for them. There is one more thing. Diwuk has decided to hold a heroes convention 2 years from now and erect a heroes monument. Right now, he is trying to gather all the outstanding talents of the younger generation. Heroes convention? What is Diwuk trying to do? Xue Lingling said cautiously. Don't underestimate Diwuk. He is very ambitious. If the heroes convention can be held as scheduled, he will establish his supreme prestige and gather a vast amount of luck. Who in the world is a hero? Who dares to call themselves a hero? Since ancient times, no one had ever held a heroes convention. The reason was none other than the word hero being too heavy. If Xiaochen really erected the heroes monument and carved the names of all the outstanding talents of this era on it, he would be able to gather a large amount of luck. Xiaochen frowned and said, his ambition is too blatant. What if others do not come? Xue Lingling said helplessly, this is his scheme. If you do not come, you will worry about others going. If someone else's name is carved on the hero's monument, you will suffer a great loss. If your name is not on the hero's monument, you will naturally be excluded. In the end, he is using his current prestige to gather luck, gathering all the geniuses of this era by his side. He is taking the initiative to become the only main character of this era. If you follow his wishes, you can be a supporting character. If you do not, you will not even be considered a supporting character when your name is not on the hero's monument. Xiaochen looked into the distance and entered deep thought. Diwuk was forcing him to a dead end. Given Xiaochen's character, he naturally could not participate in the heroes convention that Diwuk held. However, if everyone in the world participated in this heroes convention, what would happen to Xiaochen? When a great influence was formed, one would often be helpless. If one did not look down on the hero's monument, the prestige of the hero's monument would not exist. If everyone in the world believed in the word hero, then one would not be a hero if one's name was not on the hero's monument. Xiaochen organized his thoughts and said, First senior sister, you must have other intentions for telling me all this, right? Xue Lingling nodded and said, I got to know a good friend during the battle at the starry heaven Silver Lake. He fought with Diwuk 3 times and did not end up at a disadvantage in any of them. He asked me to tell you that he wants to work with you to hold a Blue Dragon convention as well. Xiaochen moved his body somewhat lazily. He tapped the ground with his right hand and smiled at the empty space in front of him. This friend of First Senior Sisters is rather unique. He likes to eavesdrop on others. Unfortunately, while he hid his head well, he did not hide his tail well. Kasi. While Xiaochen tapped the ground casually, strands of saber chi were hidden in it. Suddenly, strands of purple electric saber chi shot out from the ground 500 meters in front of him. The person hidden in the air had not expected Xiaochen to discover him. He had not expected Xiaochen to attack without saying anything. He revealed himself and gently drifted away, leaving behind blood-red afterimages. When the afterimages merged with each other, Xiaochen's eyes lit up. Chapter 894. A slender, nearly perfect, and handsome man in white appeared before Xiaochen. There was a scarlet mark between his eyebrows, giving this perfect face an even more soul-stirring evil aura. The white-clad man smiled warmly and said, You truly live up to your reputation as a descendant of the Qing Emperor. Unexpectedly, the concealment techniques of my Azura race cannot hide from your discerning eyes. Lan Xiaobai, why are you here? The appearance of this white-clad man surprised Shui Lingling as well. When she saw him clearly, her expression turned cold as she immediately asked, "Why are you here?" Lan Xiaobai landed on the ground and stepped on the tree leaves without making a sound. He said softly, "I just arrived not long ago. However, don't worry. I already gave Elder Han a heads up. I did not come uninvited." The Azura race was an extremely strong race during the ancient era. However, they were few in number and did not have the ability to produce spirits and demonic corpses like the corpse race and the ghost race. Many years ago, the Azura race moved to a star, distancing themselves from the struggle for power in the Kunlun realm. Hearing Lan Xiaobai's explanation, Shui Lingling's expression improved. However, she still felt uncomfortable. Lan Xiaobai looked straight at Xiaochen. His perfect face revealed a sincere expression as he said, "Brother Xiaochen, what do you think of Miss Shui's suggestion? We are all proud people. How can we let Diwuk erect this hero monument? Furthermore, the deity race is an outsider race. Their wild ambition has always existed, wanting to unify the Kunlun realm." Lan Xiaobai's words were sincere and did not contain any arrogance. He humbled himself, waiting for Xiaochen's answer in anticipation. Xiaochen lay on the tree trunk, not showing any intention of getting up. He smiled and said, "Well said. I think very highly of you holding the Heroes' Convention. Do your best. I will send someone to deliver a congratulatory note at that time." "What do you mean by this?" "My big brother Xiaobai is talking to you, but you're not even standing up." On the road behind the spirit tree, a man and a woman walked over quickly. The one who spoke was the woman on the right. The woman looked to be about 17 or 18 years old. She had a head of fiery red hair and fair skin. Her beautiful face gave off a lively and adorable aura. There was a red mark on his forehead. Needless to say, he was from the Azura race. Shui Lingling clearly had some friendship with this girl. She exclaimed in surprise, You're here too?" "Yes, we just paid a visit to Elder Han, and explained the purpose of our visit. But Elder Han said that everything is up to this person to decide. He has no right to interfere." The Azura girl named Yu nodded and pointed at Xiaochen angrily. The Azura race man beside Xiaochen was dressed in black. When he saw Xiaochen leaning lazily against the tree, he frowned slightly as well. However, he tolerated it well and did not say anything. Xiaochen pushed himself off the ground and stood up. "Sorry, I still have something to do. I'll take my leave first." After saying that, he headed for the space-time tunnel on his own without waiting for them to reply. When Shui Lingling saw the situation, she informed the three that she could not entertain them for now and quickly followed. The black-clad Azura race man watched the two disappear into the space-time tunnel. He said, "What is the relationship between this Miss Shui and this person? Why is she so concerned about Xiaochen's attitude?" Lan Xiaobai said depressingly, "What relationship? I gave her the heavenly silver flower petals, and she casually gave them to this person as a greeting gift." Yu exclaimed in shock, "That can't be. How could elder sister Shui be like that? The heavenly silver flower blooms once every 100 years, and there is only one flower with 3 petals. Elder brother Xiaobai, it was not easy for you to obtain an extra petal from Diwuk. Yet elder sister Shui actually gave it away?" The black-clad man smiled bitterly and said, "This is really depressing for you. However, based on their relationship, they do not seem to be lovers. Xiaobai, you still have a chance. However, do we really need this person for the Heroes' Convention?" At the mention of the Heroes' Convention, Lan Xiaobai's perfect face turned extremely grave. He said, "It is not that we need his help. It is just that with his help, we will be more confident of suppressing Diwuk. Xiaochen, you should seriously consider this. Diwuk is organizing the Heroes' Convention to pressure you. Once he becomes the main character, you will never be able to turn things around." After leaving the space-time tunnel, the two arrived in the sky above the Kunlun continent's Haotian city. Shui Lingling looked at Xiaochen anxiously. The depths of her eyes were filled with concern. Seeing that Xiaochen did not say anything, Shui Lingling said somewhat anxiously, "Lan Xiaobai's strength is really comparable to Diwuk's. If you work with him, you will definitely be able to suppress Diwuk. Xiaochen smiled bitterly in his heart. How could he not sense the concern in Shui Lingling's words? However, Xiaochen could tell what kind of person Lan Xiaobai was after probing him a little. This person said that Diwuk had the ambition of a wolf, but was he not the same? He clearly looked down on Xiaochen. Yet he was willing to lower his voice and speak to Xiaochen. He was not an ordinary person. The man and woman beside him were also not ordinary people, especially the black-clad man. Xiaochen compared the black-clad man to Long Fei, and concluded that the black-clad man was stronger than Long Fei. If Xiaochen worked with such a person, he would be weak and would not be able to take the initiative. It was just that Xiaochen had replaced Diwuk with Lan Xiaobai, and there was still someone suppressing him. There was no change at all. Xiaochen thought even further. His first senior sister was a smart person. It was impossible that she had not thought of this. Why was she so flustered? The answer was probably that Diwuk's strength had already reached an extremely terrifying level during his experience in the Starry Heaven Silver Lake. His first senior sister believed that she no longer stood a chance against him. If Diwuk's Heroes Convention succeeded, then she would not be able to survive. This was the saying, worry leads to chaos. Stopping, Xiaochen smiled softly. First senior sister, why do you feel that I have to work with others to host a Heroes Convention? Shui Lingling was slightly stunned. She pondered over Xiaochen's tone and her eyes lit up. Junior brother Xiaochen, are you thinking of hosting a Heroes Convention by yourself? Xiaochen shook his head. No. Then why? The word hero is too heavy. I don't even dare to call myself a hero, so why would I host a Heroes Convention? However, don't worry. I have already thought of a general way to deal with Diwuk's Heroes Convention. Shui Lingling blinked her eyes and asked in disbelief, really? Xiaochen smiled and asked, First senior sister, you don't believe in Xiaochen? I have never been one to sit around and wait for death, nor do I boast. When Shui Lingling heard this, she recalled some of Xiaochen's past. She revealed a smile and said, It looks like I was overly worried. I won't disturb you for now. I still have to go and entertain Lan Xiaobai. Hearing that Shui Lingling still had to go and entertain Lan Xiaobai, Xiaochen could not help but feel uncomfortable. However, he quickly adjusted himself and performed a cupped fist salute. Many thanks for first senior sister's kind intentions. I'll take my leave first. After returning to his peak, Xiaochen entered the cultivation room familiarly. Without saying anything, he used the peak spirit vein to start cultivating. Now that the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation had reached the 7th layer, his cultivation speed was no slower than Diwuk and the other outstanding talents. In fact, he was even faster. However, Xiaochen had been in the Sky Dome realm, where the spiritual energy was thin. After he returned, he had been busy comprehending the Saber Dao, and had not had much time to cultivate. Now that he had the time and the conditions to quietly comprehend, he naturally had to consolidate his cultivation. Now Xiaochen's cultivation had already reached early stage medial grade martial sage. The mysterious small world in his dantian contained 600 heavenly sage laws. There were not many of them, but each one was as thick as a baby's arm. He would not be any weaker than a regular superior grade martial sage. More importantly, Xiaochen still had vast magic energy in his sea of consciousness. This was his greatest trump card. 5 days later, the Vice Sect Master sent someone to deliver the heart-nourishing grass, bright yellow Ganoderma, gilded fruit, heavenly blood vine, and forget worry grass that Xiaochen needed. When Xiaochen saw these 5 spirit herbs, he heaved a sigh of relief. The firmament body tempering art could finally reach consummation. He had waited for this day for far too long. The last 5 layers of the firmament body tempering art corresponded to the 5 internal organs of the human body. There was no order. After cultivating it, the 5 internal organs, heart, liver, spleen, stomach, and kidneys, would be extremely resilient and resilient. Take the heart for example. As long as it was not instantly shattered, even if it was pierced, one would not die immediately. The only unfortunate thing was that this body tempering art, which originally increased vital qi, could not increase the strength of the last 5 layers at all. Xiaochen took a deep breath, and the Neptune headscarf on his forehead immediately gave off a cooling, cold chi. The many messy thoughts in Xiao Chen's mind were swept away like fallen leaves. Now he was completely immersed in cultivating the firmament body tempering art. The Neptune headscarf was indeed wondrous. Its calming effect was already worthy of being called a rare treasure. Xiao Chen swallowed the heart-nourishing grass. After the medicinal energy took effect, he started to use the firmament body tempering art's energy to temper his heart. Now that his body had already reached rank 3 sage body, he had already surpassed the basic requirements for cultivating the firmament body tempering art. There were no obstructions to this tempering. The process went very smoothly. Bang, bang, bang. As the medicinal energy permeated his heart, and Xiao Chen tempered it, his heartbeat slowed down. However, it grew stronger. With every heartbeat, a dull sound echoed in the room. The interval between heartbeats grew longer. In the end, his heart did not beat for a long time. However, the energy generated when it suddenly beat was like thunder, displaying a berserk life force. It was like an ancient holy beast with a boundless life force. Xiao Chen opened his eyes, and his heart returned to normal. With a flip of his hand, a short sword appeared. Then, Xiao Chen tore off his clothes and aimed the tip of the sword at his heart. After thinking for a while, he stabbed it in. Blood flowed out as the tip of the sword stabbed his heart. However, it did not pierce through. The strong toughness of the heart slowly resisted the sword. Success! Xiao Chen's face lit up in joy. He let his heart relax, and the tip of the sword successfully pierced through. Immediately, intense pain spread to his brain. However, when Xiao Chen clenched his teeth and pulled out the sword, the crack in his heart quickly healed. The crack in Xiao Chen's heart immediately closed up at an extremely fast speed. Not long after, it returned to normal. There was no need to circulate qi at all. Chapter 895. By the time the wound on his chest healed, Xiao Chen no longer felt any pain. If not for the blood on the short sword, he might have suspected that the earlier scene had not happened at all. Good. The refinement of the heart is a success. Xiao Chen put away the short sword, and his expression returned to normal. He stopped thinking and consumed the heavenly blood vine to nourish his stomach. By the time the sky turned bright, Xiao Chen had consumed all the 5 organs divine herbs, and the firmament body tempering art reached consummation. After leaving the cultivation room, Xiao Chen went to the drill ground halfway up the mountain. When he breathed in the morning air, he could clearly feel the changes in his internal organs. Xiao Chen casually swept his gaze across the drill ground, and his heart skipped a beat. He stared at an empty spot for a moment before calmly shifting his gaze away. Then, Xiao Chen moved his feet and practiced the myriad heaven divine fist with a calm expression. There were still 3 more moves. It was time to make use of this opportunity to complete them. In the following days, Xiao Chen's life followed a pattern. At night, he used the peak spirit vein to cultivate. During the day, he practiced the fist technique at the drill ground, comprehending the final 3 moves of the myriad heaven divine fist: eternal myth, dusk of deities, and burial of deities. Xiao Chen had his own understanding of the myriad heaven divine fist. He had already carved out his own path. Naturally, he had to adapt the last 3 moves to suit himself. Given Xiao Chen's current experience, he could tell that all the techniques in the world differed from person to person. If one only followed what the predecessors did, and did not adapt it to suit oneself, one would never be able to surpass them. White-robed King Xiao Chen. The merfolk races Yao Yan and Ji Shizhan seek an audience. On this particular day, as Xiao Chen practiced the fist technique, he heard someone at the foot of the mountain requesting an audience. Xiao Chen could not help sweating. He had not even decided on the king title yet. How did the title of white-robed king spread everywhere? Unexpectedly, even the merfolk race's princess in the distant chaotic demonic sea knew about it. With a wry smile, Xiao Chen retracted his fist. He glanced at a certain place, whether intentionally or unintentionally, and leaped toward the foot of the mountain. At the foot of the mountain, Princess Yao Yan, who had sky-blue hair and was dressed in leather, and Mu Lei, whom she had met once, were waiting nervously. When they saw Xiao Chen's figure, both of their faces revealed a hint of joy, especially Princess Yao Yan, who was looking forward to it. Greetings, white-robed king. The two of them stepped forward and immediately cupped their fists. Xiaochen said rather helplessly, "You two, there's no need to be so polite. My king title hasn't been decided yet." Mu Lei said politely, "Brother Xiaochen is being too humble. Right now, who in the Kunlun realm does not know that you defeated the descendants of 3 sovereign martial emperors, and easily seized 2 resource stars without spilling blood? The title of the white-robed king has already spread far and wide. There were some things that one could not refute. The title of white-robed king was probably set in stone. Who knew who was the one who spread it? The chaotic demonic sea and the Haotian province are very far apart. The two of you are not here to chat idly with this Xiao, right?" Xiaochen did not bother with the pleasantries, directly asking about the two's purpose. Princess Yaoyan hesitated for a while before asking, "Young Master Xiao, do you remember what this little girl said in the Sage Mark Monument?" Xiaochen was about to answer when he raised his eyebrows. Then he quickly put on the repaired Heavenly Sea cloak and said, "Please wait for a while. I have to deal with some trifling matters." "Young Master Xiao, do you need help?" "There's no need. It's just a small bug hiding its head and showing its tail. I'll be right back." An indistinct figure moved through the air at the foot of the mountain. It moved very fast, like it was flying. Furthermore, this figure hid in the air, not stirring up any wind or startling anyone. As it stepped on the soft fallen leaves, it was as light as the wind. After making a few rounds, the figure left the Haotian city. Then, it stopped at a patch of grass 50 kilometers outside the city and revealed itself. There was a red mark on the figure's forehead, looking very startling. This was an Azura race cultivator. There were a few rocks in front of the figure. Lan Xiaobai and that black-clad Azura race cultivator were all there. The nearly flawless Lan Xiaobai held a book as he sat on the rock, reading. If one looked carefully, one would discover that this was not a martial technique secret manual, but a collection of information on all the famous outstanding talents of the various races of the Kunlun realm. There were even quite a few names that appeared on the list from the worlds far away from the continent. When the figure arrived, Lan Xiaobai did not raise his head. Instead, he continued reading the information in the book. "Young master, I have been following your instructions for the past few days. I have been staying within 500 meters of Xiaochen. His every move did not escape my notice. His every move did not escape my eyes," the figure reported respectfully before the black-clad man. When the black-clad man heard this, he frowned. His expression changed slightly as he reprimanded coldly. 500 meters? When did I tell you to stay within 500 meters of him? The order I gave you was to monitor his every move from a distance, not to spy on his daily life. Unconvinced, the figure said, "Young master, you think too highly of this person." In the past 5 days, I managed to find out many of his secrets. However, this fellow did not notice anything at all. A thought occurred to Lan Xiaobai, and he closed the book. He exchanged glances with the black-clad man, both of them in disbelief. However, the eyes of the lively Yu lit up. She smiled and said, "Quickly tell me, what secrets does this person have?" The figure felt very happy at the encouragement, so he opened his mouth to speak. However, he suddenly discovered that he could not close his mouth. A finger pressed against the back of his head. Whoosh! A bright light flickered, and there was a metallic sound. It was like a treasured saber had been unsheathed in the air, giving off an unparalleled sharpness. When the light scattered, the figure's body was split in half. He died without a complete corpse, unable to speak of the secrets in his heart. Aside from Lan Xiaobai, Yu and the black-clad man's expressions froze. They withdrew their killing chi as they looked at the black-cloaked man in front. In the time it took for a spark to fly, the figure that was spying on him got split in half by a saber light. Unexpectedly, the Azura race experts, who were famous for their concealment, did not notice the arrival of this person. "Brother Xiaochen, you are very skilled. Since you already showed yourself, why are you still wearing a cloak?" Lan Xiaobai's expression remained the same as usual. No one could make out his expression. Xiaochen did not find this strange. He did not care that the other party could see through his cloak and reveal his identity. He removed his hood and smiled coldly. "This Xiao is truly honored. I did not expect the esteemed guests of the Azura race to be so interested in me. You looked at the figure that died miserably. Then she looked at Xiao Chen's expressionless face. She clenched her teeth and said angrily, "How hateful! Why are you so ruthless? Who is interested in you?" Xiao Chen stepped forward, and a white sword appeared in his hand. The light faded, and his figure suddenly vanished. This was the instant kill technique that the Azura race was famous for. Dang! Xiao Chen used 2 fingers as a saber. Without moving his feet, he gently tapped the right side. When his finger came in contact with the sword, it gave off a melodious sound. Wang, wang, wang. Sharp saber intent and sword intent clashed intensely. In the instant they came into contact, the surrounding air trembled at least 1,000 times. Strong winds blew everywhere, and the grass on the ground was uprooted. When Xiao Chen saw the angry expression on this girl's face, he found it strange. It was just a spy who died. Lan Xiaobai and that black-clad man probably would not even bat an eyelid, not caring about it at all. With one glance, it was clear that this girl was not someone in charge. Yet she was so angry. This was very confusing. However, no matter how strange it was, it had nothing to do with Xiao Chen. Chapter 896. However, if that is all you think you can fight against Diwuk, you are being too naive, Lan Xiaobai said unhurriedly. The black-clad man beside Lan Xiaobai added, Diwuk's cultivation has already reached superior grade martial sage long ago. He can already materialize the divine kingdom on his own. That instant beginning sword is practically unstoppable among the younger generation. It is much more powerful than yours. Flawless Four Seasons did not just have the winter saber. If Xiao Chen could complete spring, summer, and autumn as well, it might not be any weaker than Diwuk's instant beginning sword. Xiao Chen did not refute or argue. He just waited quietly for the other party to continue. Lan Xiaobai's voice sounded somewhat bewitching as he said, Xiao Chen, how long are you going to run? As a descendant of the Qing Emperor, you possess supreme luck. Now that your fame has spread far and wide, your life is destined to not be peaceful. Even if you do not seek trouble, trouble will seek you out on its own. In that case, why go with the flow, taking one step at a time? Diwuk dares to take the initiative to gather luck and become the main character. Why do you not dare to take the initiative to face him? Work together with me. I will help you hold a heroes' convention. Since Diwuk erected a heroes' monument, we will establish a Xinglong scheme and compete to see who is the main character of this era, who is the true hero. Xinglong scheme? So this is what Lan Xiaobai is thinking. He is interested in the reputation of the Qing Emperor. No wonder when Lan Xiaobai said he wanted to hold a Blue Dragon convention, Xiao Chen thought he heard wrong. Xiao Chen, what do you think? Let's write a Xinglong scheme together to gather luck and become the absolute main character of this era. We will replicate the legend of the Qing Emperor. You and I will be praised for 10,000 years. Lan Xiaobai appeared very confident. He was not afraid that Xiao Chen would not agree. Xiao Chen was not strong enough to face Diwuk's pressure, so he needed to seek outside help. As long as he agreed, then his plan would immediately be perfect, and there would be no mistakes. Even now, the name of Qing Emperor still had a great appeal. Imperceptibly, it suppressed Diwuk. Xiao Chen smiled and said, You're wrong about one thing. I've never been afraid of Diwuk, and I've never thought of relying on others to suppress Diwuk. Your plans have nothing to do with me. Lan Xiaobai was slightly taken aback. Clearly, he did not expect Xiao Chen to be so decisive, and had never thought of cooperating with him. His expression turning cold, Lan Xiaobai said, Xiao Chen, you really are arrogant. All right, I won't look for you anymore. However, you'd better stay away from Lady Shui in the future. Xiao Chen's expression turned cold, and killing qi suddenly erupted from his body. His aura underwent an earth-shattering change. His long hair fluttered and his clothes fluttered. His killing intent was like a torrential flood that surged to the heavens, giving rise to waves and tsunamis. However, when Xiao Chen thought about it, the killing qi in his heart instantly vanished and he regained his calm. Lan Xiaobai's and the black-clad man's heart sank, as though they were facing a great enemy. In that instant, the killing chi surged into their hearts. The feeling that Xiaochun gave them was actually the same as Diwux's. First senior sister is indebted to you in the starry heaven Silver Lake. This time, I won't make a move against you. The next time we meet, don't let me hear something like that. Otherwise, even if I have to become enemies with all the Azura race's martial emperors, I will take your life. Don't doubt my words. Xiaochun said coldly and turned around, ignoring the black-clad man. The ice flower on Yu's forehead floated up gently before exploding in front of Xiaochun. Snowflakes fell, and a cold wind blew. A cold voice penetrated the snowflakes and reached Lan Xiaobai's and the black-clad man's ears. I forgot to say something. The Azura race's comprehension of spatial energy is indeed outstanding among the various races. In the future, don't send any stray dogs or cats to spy on me. I'm not in a good mood all the time. I won't let him live for a few days. Lan Xiaobai and the black-clad man exchanged glances. The scene from earlier still lingered in their minds. Their emotions fluctuated. Xiaochun's strength seemed to have surpassed their expectations. Yu nimbly leaped up from the ground and stretched her body. Then she looked at the ground not far away. When the snowflakes fell, they turned into ice flowers that stuck to the ground. Under the refraction of the sunlight, the ice flowers looked very colorful. Unexpectedly, these ice flowers really bloomed. When Yu looked up, she saw that Xiaochun had long since disappeared. She could not help but wonder, what exactly is this fellow's relationship with elder sister Xue? Why did he get so angry earlier? When Yu felt the strength that Xiaochun had just burst out with, she immediately guessed that while Xiaochun seemed ruthless in his fight with her, he had held back. He did not intend to do anything to her. After a while, the black-clad man said, "Even if we cannot be friends with this person, we absolutely cannot make him an enemy." The expression on Lan Xiaobai's perfect face kept changing. He muttered, "Let's not care about him for now. Let's go to the Fiend Domain." Right now, a genius girl appeared in the Fiend Domain's Spirit Fox race. At such a young age, she grasped the heart of a swordsman and condensed a sword soul. She can fight for it. When Xiaochun returned to the peak, his expression had already returned to normal. "Sorry, I had to deal with some private matters earlier and kept the two of you waiting." Xiaochun performed a cupped fist salute to Princess Yao Yan. Princess Yao Yan smiled and said, "It's fine. Does young Master Xiao still remember what I said in the Sage Mark Monument 2 years ago? My race is facing a calamity of extinction." The matter of 2 years ago was not too long ago. Naturally, Xiaochun remembered. Back then, for the sake of repaying the other party's kindness to the Qing Emperor, he had helped her obtain the Extreme Thunder Sword. However, the other party had also given him a precious headscarf, which was no less valuable than the Extreme Thunder Sword. Strictly speaking, Xiaochun had not repaid the favor. What's wrong? The Extreme Thunder Sword did not work? Xiaochun asked when he thought of a possibility. Princess Yao Yan waved her hand and said, "No, it worked. If not for that Extreme Thunder Sword, the entire merfolk race would have moved out of the chaotic demonic sea long ago. Who knows how many of our people would have died. Young Master Xiao, the merfolk race will forever remember the favor from back then, never to forget it for generations to come." Xiaochun smiled in his heart. He said, "Princess Yao Yan is too polite. Just speak your mind. I can see that the two of you are still frowning. You probably ran into some trouble again." "I have never liked to be polite. Your Highness's Neptune headscarf is very useful to me. I have always felt ashamed to receive it. If there is anything that Xiaochun can help with, I will do my best to the best of my abilities." When Princess Yao Yan saw the sincerity in Xiaochun's eyes, she relaxed. She said, "In that case, I'll be straightforward. Although the Extreme Thunder Sword helped my merfolk race resolve our urgent crisis, it did not eliminate the root of the problem. This time, I would like to borrow a fire from young Master Xiao." "Borrow a fire?" "Yes, I would like to borrow young Master Xiao's Purple Thunder True Fire." Flames could be borrowed. As long as the other party's imprint entered one's origin flame and temporarily sealed off one's own spiritual mark, the other party would be able to control it as they pleased. However, the risk of borrowing a fire was extremely high. If the other party did not return it, There were many ways to take the flame for oneself. The importance of the purple thunder true fire to Xiao Chun went without saying. Lending it out was absolutely impossible. Of course, I will take out a few of the clan's treasures and hand them to young Master Xiao for safekeeping. This will reassure young Master Xiao that you will return what you borrowed. With a flip of Princess Yao Yan's hand, 3 items appeared in the air. One was a clear pearl that was as clear as moonlight, one was a black medallion, and one was a headscarf that gave off a green light. The moment these 3 items appeared, Xiao Chen's expression changed. Even though he was ignorant and inexperienced, he had read about these 3 items in several books. The Water God Pearl, the Holy Beast Medallion, and the Thorn Sovereign Headscarf. Any one of them was more valuable than Xiao Chen's Purple Thunder True Fire. With these 3 added together, they were even more valuable. This was enough to show the other party's sincerity. Xiao Chen smiled bitterly and said, "Your Highness, please put them away. I still cannot borrow this Purple Thunder True Fire." Princess Yao Yan had a somewhat bitter expression as she looked at Xiao Chun. She said, "Young Master Xiao, do you really not trust this little girl? After you borrow the Purple Thunder True Fire, I will definitely return it to you." Xiao Chun quickly said, "Princess is too serious. Although I cannot lend the Purple Thunder True Fire, this Xiao is willing to accompany the 2 of you." "Really?" The pleasant surprise came too quickly. Princess Yao Yan and Xiao Chun were in disbelief. Now that the name of the white-robed king had spread everywhere, he was a proud son of heaven. This trip would delay the other party's cultivation for a long time. Xiao Chun nodded and said, "I will inform the elders of the sect and make some preparations before we depart." "Many thanks, white-robed king." When Xiao Chun heard these 3 words, he could not help feeling a headache. Now he really wanted to know which fellow spread the name of the white-robed king. After making all the preparations, Xiao Chun followed Princess Yao Yan and set off for the chaotic demonic sea. Along the way, Xiao Chun gained a rough understanding of the trouble the merfolk race encountered. The merfolk race lived at the bottom of the chaotic demonic sea. They built a dreamlike underwater kingdom, and had lived here for several tens of thousands of years. However, the merfolk race, which did not seem to have any natural enemies, had a demonic sword hanging over their heads that could fall at any moment. This was a shadow that accompanied the merfolk race forever. The chaotic demonic sea was called the chaotic demonic sea because there really were demons here. During the ancient era, the ancestors of the merfolk race paid a huge price to defeat the evil demons here. They sealed some of the evil demons that could not be killed, creating a peaceful chaotic demonic sea for their descendants. However, 10,000 years ago, these seals started to loosen, and several clones of the evil demons that were sealed came out. Back then, fortunately, the Qing Emperor made a move. He spent a lot of effort to destroy these evil demon clones, mending the seals. Otherwise, the merfolk race would have been destroyed. Now that 10,000 years had passed, these seals started to loosen again, and several evil demon clones came out. These evil demon clones were not just any creature in the world. Aside from the lightning-attributed yang-attributed flames, they could not do anything to them. Even the merfolk race's emperor, Wu, could not do anything to them. When Xiao Chun heard this, he finally understood why the other party wanted to borrow the Purple Thunder True Fire. Among the lightning-attributed yang-attributed flames, the Purple Thunder True Fire was undoubtedly the strongest. It was much stronger than the Extreme Thunder True Fire contained in the Extreme Thunder Sword. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.